Chapter 1. The Life of a Demon, 1. Published by Scribble Hub. AD 3333. Earth. Mother, Kai cried cheerily. Look, I solved it. The 11-year-old child had an exhilarating smile on his face, and his brilliant hazel pupils were embedded in his eyes like two gems. Shoulder-length white hair flowed behind him as he ran to his mother, carrying sheets of paper. The one, who this child called his mother, created a stark contrast when compared to him. She was thin, her face was pale, and the dark patches under her eyes told a tale of great tiredness. Despite these features, she looked extremely beautiful somehow. Her face shared the enchanting character of the child, and her pupils were hazel as well, just a tinge darker. Long, light blonde hair fell over her shoulder like sunlight. Let me see, Edith Stormborn said, rubbing her son's head and glancing at the papers. Oh, you really did it, Kai. This gene sequence, wonderful, you saved us years of research. Her words were cheerful, but there was a sadness hidden behind her smile as well. Over 1300 years had passed since the virus Oxycron had struck the planet out of nowhere. In just a few years, it had wiped out most of the human population. By the time the last infected case had passed away, the population was dwindling on its last legs. The following decade saw an incomprehensible surge in the world's oxygen levels. The previously assumed fact that the virus didn't affect the animals faced its first challenge when the survivors of the pandemic found a mutated mosquito the size of a human head. The plants kept breaking their height limits, and animals kept becoming larger and larger. It was obvious at a glance that some unknown phenomenon was involved in this absurd evolutionary surge, defying the scientific laws as known by the humans. It was almost said that the Earth had forsaken the human species. Those who had survived were nothing but a part of the food chain, destined to go extinct. When all seemed lost, hope finally arrived. Humans, at the cost of a Pyrrhic victory, learned to harness the strength of those enhanced beasts in the form of their blood essence by assimilating it into themselves and obtain the power of that beast. Unfortunately, the beasts kept becoming stronger, and the planet kept becoming harsher, forcing the humans to work upon becoming more powerful. Yet, no matter how they tried, all failed to assimilate over one blood essence into their bodies as if there was a heavenly limit onto it. Thus came the period of great scientific revolution, giving emphasis on research and development based around the multiple blood essence assimilation. Humans also began experimenting with selective breeding, trying to pass on their assimilated blood essence, characteristics and give birth to the most astute minds with every next generation. And the one who led the humankind in all this, remaining at the pinnacle of both scientific and mystical stage, was the House Stormborn. After hundreds of years, two individuals, possessing the greatest minds of all times, rose from this house, Alan Stormborn and Edith Stormborn. Even when they were kids, the entire human race had burdened their shoulders with the heaviest hope. A hope, not to end their misery or finish the multiple blood essence assimilation program, but to give birth to a child. Because, that child, was destined to be a messiah. Hearing his mother's words, Kai Stormborn beamed. He laughed childishly. Can I look at it now, mother, please? Edith shook her head and sighed. Well, she said, stretching the word, okay, why not? But, you can't tell anyone. Kai took 2 successive breaths, holding back the joy in his eyes. I promise, he said, trying to look solemn, but his childish expressions betrayed him. I won't tell anyone. Edith giggled. Come then, she whispered, putting Kai down. They were in a huge lab, with dozens of people in white coats. Every time they passed by a glass wall, Kai jumped to see into the room, hoping to glimpse the humongous tide beasts. Kai? Edith turned around, raising an eyebrow. Color rose to Kai's cheek, making him blush, and he ran to catch up to her. It was a long corridor. Many scientists crossed them, greeting Edith with great respect on their faces. More kept taking secret glances at Kai, pointing at him, whispering about him. And even greater respect gleamed in their eyes as they looked at him. However, this respect had quite a dark shadow about it. It was rotten, and it reeked of fear. This 11-year-old boy was a living nightmare, a monster who devoured knowledge like the ancient Teodi. At the age when other children learned how to speak properly and write, Kai had already burned his way through evolutionary biology and evolutionary genetics. When the other children learned of this planet's troubled history and their ancestors' heroic deeds, Kai had left many leading scientists behind in the fields of viral and bacterial evolution, molecular and genome evolution, and genetics of speciation. And when other children learned how to hunt, Kai had already published papers on analysis of quantitative trait variation, host-parasite coevolution, sexual selection and sexual conflict, and natural selection in the wild. Edith Stormborn narrowed her eyes at greedy and fearful gazes, pressing Kai towards her. Soon they arrived in front of a giant metallic door. Edith put her left hand over it and closed her eyes. A formless power churned about her and the door shone with a white golden light. With a click, it vanished, melting into thin air. Edith and Kai entered the House Stormborn's private lab, and the moment they crossed the threshold, the door reappeared. It seemed like they had entered another world. It looked more like a natural rainforest with overgrown vegetation and less like a lab. The mother and son walked into the forest leisurely and soon found themselves facing another glass wall. But this one was special. It was hundreds of feet high and was running for thousands of meters from left to right. Kai looked up at his mother with great anticipation. Edith smiled and once again put her left hand on the glass. Suddenly the glass rippled. Then they waited. Hiss. It's coming, Kai cried, putting his both hands on the rippling wall of glass. There. From the forest, a magnificent red serpent, over 300 feet in length, and with yellow slitted eyes slithered out, hissing and puffing. The giant serpent flicked out its forked tongue, observing Edith, and then it looked at Kai. Its head came down in front of him, just resting over the leafy ground. Red, did you find my father? Kai suddenly blurted out. You must have sensed him, right? I calculated it. Your genome structure is ideal for world sense. Edith was shocked as she heard Kai's words. Her shock soon turned into a great painful and saddened expression, her eyes reflecting the little figure of Kai. Alan Stormborn, the world's leading scientist, had disappeared right after his son's birth, shocking all. The giant red snake hissed, shaking its head. Kai looked quite flustered. Oh, he breathed out, looking down. Never mind, then. Edith crouched near him and lifted his chin. A man can lose everything, son, she told him, but not the hope in his heart. Your father will come back. I know him. Kai's eyes were misty. But why did he leave? He asked, his breath heavy. How will you work alone, mother? It's killing you. Knowledge didn't mean bliss for everyone. You tested my blood again, didn't you? Edith asked, smiling. No, I am not mad at you, Kai. But you were wrong. I am not alone. I have you. You are my hope. You are this world's hope. I am Kai. The 12-year-old Kai introduced himself shyly. In front of him stood a 14-year-old boy with profound black eyes and short black hair. There was no joy on his face, nor was there any shyness, hatred, or, as a matter of fact, any perceivable emotion. Only dead calmness. He is Brock from House Valhart, Edith interjected. Members of Valhart House sacrificed themselves courageously for humanity's survival in the last beast tide. He will live with us from now on. I know you two will be good to each other, just like two brothers. Kai smiled at that. His entire childhood had gone without having any friend. To have Brock live with him, he could have hoped for nothing better. Brother, the 13-year-old Kai ran to Brock. Check this out. In Kai's hands was a disc, projecting a hologram. The hologram showed a red mass that looked more liquid than air and it kept churning into itself, coiling, wreathing, and slithering. Is that? Brock asked calmly, eyeing the hologram. The essence bead, Kai declared proudly, smiling. Using father's old research, mother seemed to have figured it out, I think. See, she is awesome. The essence bead was the culmination of centuries-long project, which could theoretically let humans assimilate over one blood essence within their bodies. Brock looked into Kai's eyes. She is awesome, he nodded. But wasn't it you who helped her all this while with the cohesive genome theory? Kai scratched his head with a shy expression. It's nothing. No, why is this happening, mother? The 14-year-old Kai's lips trembled. His eyes were bloodshot and tears fell down his chin like trails of shooting stars. In his lap was Edith, her chest pierced and bloody. Blood was seeping out from her eyes, ears, and mouth, the smile on her face widening with every next moment. Tired, she was too tired. Edith's hand touched Kai's heart. Hope, the word came out of her mouth like a breeze. Live. And she said no more, her hazel eyes looking at Kai with great pride. Kai's face became blue. He felt suffocated, choking on words, his face and body covered in the blood of his mother. I knew she would come here, Rock said, stepping into the room, wielding the spear which was once the weapon of Alan Stormborn. Where is it? Give it to me, Kai. I don't want to kill you, too. Kai's hand trembled as he closed his mother's eyes. Knowledge truly wasn't bliss for everyone. With a broken motion, Kai lifted his face and stared into those dead eyes. He was breathing like a beast, his body shaking, and veins popping up all over his body. She gave you a home. I gave you a brother, Kai muttered, as though the entire world had said it. Rock. I will kill you. In the sewers under the city, Kai crawled on his hands and legs. He was nothing but skin and bones. Gone was the luster and the childish shyness on his face. Everything about him screamed of death. For how many days had he not eaten something? He didn't know it himself. Only his eyes were alive. Kai grabbed his stomach and rolled over, clenching it hard to bear the pain of hunger. The surrounding darkness was getting darker in his eyes, the filthy smell becoming sweeter. Was dying so bad? He would just need to close his eyes, and it would be over. Yes, perhaps he wouldn't feel so cold then. Kai's eyes drooped, his breath misting, vanishing at last. Live. The eyes shot open. A fuming breath entered his lungs as he feasted on the promise of revenge. He must not die. Not today. There he is, the voices echoed in the sewers. Found him at last. Who knew he was hiding here like a rat? Kai saw them coming, beastly phantoms surrounding their figures like blankets. Red, he hissed, his voice low. Teach me, to live. Kill him. Die, you bastard. Where is it? Hand it over. The crowd pounced on him, wielding weapons and powers of 100 different kinds. And Kai slithered. Live. I must live. Kai chewed the rats, gnawing on their bones. I must kill. Hey, someone's there. A shout reverberated. Kai's mouth kept moving, his eyes lost, and his ears ringing with eerie words. A gentle smile kept blurring in and out of existence in his mind. When the reinforcements came, they found Kai surrounded by scores of bodies. His entire figure was drenched in blood, and the sound of chewing nauseated all the listeners. He killed them all? This demon. Kai paused. He lifted his face, his eyes gleaming like a beast as he counted their numbers. The piece of tasty flesh dropped out of his fingers. He plunged his hands into the filthy blood lake around him and took out the first weapons they touched. The two sabers in his hands reeked of death as he stood up. Kiki, Kai's lips twisted. He slithered towards them, one step after another. Nothing about his appearance looked humane anymore. Kekeke, the low psychotic laugh sent a shiver running down their spines. Kai lifted his hands, an unseen phantom of a giant red serpent appearing behind him. He's gone mad. Kill him. Kill. Attack from all sides. Heads flew, eyes got stabbed, and flesh was torn off their bodies like lambs getting butchered. Wounds were exchanged, but lives were only taken, seized by the blood demon. Chapter 2. The Life of a Demon, 2. Published by Scribble Hub. Hand over the essence bead, demon, Rock said coolly. His black eyes were emotionless, and his even blacker hair was smooth as silk. You are not worthy. Reflected in his mirror-like eyes was a red figure, but its beastly appearance could be seen clearly even then. This figure had cloudy white hair, disheveled and sprawled over his shoulders. His body was covered in red armor from the neck down. The sound of gears turning and screws screeching against nuts kept coming out of it. From the joints of the armor, a burst of white and yellow steam came out now and then, jolting his body which hovered above the earth. But even this armor couldn't hide the most striking thing about this man. It was his eyes. Hazel, pure but defiant. The white of his eyes had been claimed by the dense blood-red veins, starting from the corner of his eyes and reaching towards the center. It was like thousands of lava rivers were fueling those golden-colored seas in his pupils. How many innocent people have died under your hands? Rock asked. Rock's question brought about a shout of rage from all the men and women surrounding the white-haired creature. All had known, publicly, the notorious and condemning deeds of the Messiah-turned-demon. Massacres, assassinations, kidnappings, and rapes. Name the crime and he had committed it. Old and young, none had survived under the wrath of his sabers, spilling their innocent blood over the floor like butchering pigs. The people in the streets talked about a demon, who had killed his father from his mother's womb. And then he waited, like the snake he was, for the right time before killing his mother too at the boyish age of 14. Only 2 years had passed since then. The 16-year-old Kai took in all the faces judging him for the crimes he had committed and the crimes he had been framed for. Anger and resentment coursed through his very veins, replacing the blood if there was some left. His entire body ached, the wounds felt stabbing into his bones, and he could feel the blood draining out of his body with every passing second. Only the armor was keeping him airborne. But for how long? Kai bitterly thought. The white-yellow steam coming out of the armor was growing thin. The grating noise of the armor's parts sounded like roaring the last goodbye. Is this it? Kai thought, his eyes moving up to see the vastness of the blue sky. Behind him, the gurgles of the thunder were approaching. Every other blast felt closer than the last. Soon the black clouds would take over the sky, and the light red sunshine of the setting sun. A storm is coming. Kai closed his eyes for just a moment, but when he opened them, there were no more questions. His left hand swept by his left thigh. His actions made everyone straighten their back, taut like a drawn bow. He lifted his hand and unfurled his fingers, letting everyone see the content placed there. Is this the thing you all want? Kai hissed. The essence bead. Kai noticed the looks of greed and hunger on all faces with murder in his eyes. A sudden gust of wind lifted Kai's white hair, signaling the storm's arrival. It also gave an unplanned signal to the others, and they lunged at him from all around. Purge the world of this filth, Rock commanded. Kai closed his left palm, his right hand swept by his right thigh, and a long saber appeared in his hand. Behind him, a colossal illusion of a red, coiled serpent appeared. Lightning flashed through it, showing its forked tongue and red slit pupils. In the next moment, the serpent's image diffused and entered Kai. His blood boiled, a sudden burst of power overtook him, burying his tiredness deep within him. Little by little, his round hazel eyes turned long and narrow slits. The same happened to the others as well. There were images of enormous porcupines, giant seabirds, towering apes, and many more. As the images entered their bodies, a beastly growl came from their throats, challenging the demon and vowing to eat him alive. A hiss slithered Kai's surroundings in reply. An old man, with giant eagle-like wings on his back, shot himself towards Kai. He was the strongest among them, just beneath Brock. He was also the fastest of them all. To the astonishment of others, Kai also lunged at the old man. There was an elation in the old man's eyes seeing this. Just when they were a few meters away from each other, Kai threw the essence bead towards the old man. Take it, Kai said. The old man lost his bearings. His clawed hands clutched the object which all desired. Its touch felt the smoothest to him, and then the cold steel kissed his neck. Kai beheaded the old man with a heinous smile of greed still planted on his wrinkly face. Kai snatched the object out of the lifeless hands. He could see the wariness in all eyes, but time was not in his favor. If they won't come to him, then he would go to them. The gears of his red armor furiously rubbed against each other in agreement. Kai charged at the nearest essence cultivator. He was the one with the essence of mutated porcupine. The middle-aged man hated Kai no less than the old man, his greed even larger. But the fear of death held him at his place. Cover me, the middle-aged man shouted. He faced his back towards Kai and shot out hundreds of over 1 meter long pikes at him. Kai again didn't change the direction of his flight. The middle-aged man was the only long-range attacker, and he would do anything to kill him. The pikes rained down on him from his front. His bones gave out a popping sound simultaneously. Another hiss resounded in the ears of listeners, and then they saw Kai slithering among the pikes effortlessly. It was like a snake was slithering among the thorns, but not worrying about their sharpness at all. They had heard of it, and a selected few had even seen it on screen. But the live motion of Kai's movements had surpassed all imaginations. It was true, one said. One with beast, another exclaimed. But they didn't have time to say more. Kai had emerged out of the pike's rain without suffering a single injury. The middle-aged man had asked for help, but now it was too late. Before another round of pikes could come out of his back, Kai coiled himself on his back. All saw Kai opening his mouth, and the two black fangs protruding out in place of his canines. The middle-aged man couldn't even shout when Kai plunged his fangs into his neck. The man fell when Kai let go of him, but before he could fall even 100 meters, he turned into a pool of slimy blood. Fighting against the group was Kai's specialty. None doubted it now. Thunder was above them, and all other sounds had receded. The following few minutes were just men and women screaming and dying. Kai's back was caved in from the repeated blows of the ape essence cultivator. A sword was running through his stomach, trying to hack his waist, and from the hilt of the sword dangled a wrist with a bloody stump. Kai's chest heaved, trying to find the elusive air. His nostrils flared, and his brilliant eyes were getting darker with every other strike of lightning in the sky. The storm was at its peak. Finally, it's you and me, Kai said, looking at Brock, his grip tightening over his parents' legacy. I should have never trusted you, traitor. Kai took a last deep breath in his beastly form. His red armor felt alive, roaring its last battle cry. But Kai could feel that Brock, as ever, had no hint of panic on his face, his eyes still calm as Winter Lake. Just when Kai reached the peak of his speed, Brock vanished, merging into the surroundings in plain sight. It was as if the entire world had forgotten Brock's existence. Chameleon blood essence, Kai thought, gritting his teeth. It was his mother's gift to Brock, and Kai was the one who had suggested it. Kai had to stop. The hissing around him was dying, and his senses were dull. The blood loss was showing its effect, and the armor was on the verge of blasting into pieces. Lightning crack on his left, and from his right came a shrill sound of air. A deadly feeling rose in Kai's heart. Click. Kai parried the spear and counterattacked, hitting nothing but air. His saber went by the empty air, sending him out of balance. The spear again showed itself at his calf, but Kai had no way to parry this one. A shower of blood burst out as his left leg got cut off. The armor could do nothing to stop the sharpness of that spear. Ha ha ha, Kai suddenly laughed, a touch of madness in his voice. Brock, you bastard, you two want this, right? He held his left hand high and then suddenly brought it to his mouth. HMPH, a snort came to Kai's ears and a phantom hand flicked his left arm away from his mouth. Kai's joints felt rusty to even move when Brock thrust the full length of the spear blade into his chest. A sudden twist of the spear made Kai let go of the strength through which he had been holding the saber. Some men are destined to rise, stepping on the ashes of the dead. You are not even a man, demon, Brock said. Kai looked into the dark eyes and smirked. For the first time, he saw panic written on Brock's face. This was the only thing Kai could do. He knew from the very beginning. He had no chance against so many, not when he was about to face Brock in the end. If he could get his revenge at the cost of his life, then the price was cheap indeed. His left hand twisted, and a snake-like mouth opened up where his fingers were. The snake devoured the essence bead in one gulp. You fool, Brock roared. Ha ha, boom, Kai said, with a huge smile on his face. His red armor was nothing compared to the spear, but it was the best of its kind. As soon as it got the command, it ballooned up with all the power left in it. Brock had no time to back up, even after letting go of the spear. The storm must have gone away, for Kai heard nothing. Before the darkness took over him, his eyes were just looking at the panic on Brock's disintegrating face. And oh, he so loved the sight of that panic. Chapter 3, Chaos or Order, The First Random World, 1. Published by Scribble Hub. In a white room with no doors, two laser-like beams met each other. One was deep red, not unlike blood, but more dreadful and devious. The other was pale blue, like a colored mist, but more streamlined than its counterpart. At the point of their contact, a figure began to take shape. The two beams kept tracing the insides and the outsides of this figure as if it was printing it in solid form. It was certain by then that these beams had a certain blueprint to follow. Only a moment had passed after the two beams had completed the figure when it exploded with a booming sound. Blood, flesh, and bones splattered around the room, reaching to the corners of the roof. The two beams died away as the white walls absorbed the filth, and soon the room with no doors was empty again. Four more beams came out of nowhere and made contact with each other. Two red and two blue. The process of creation had slowed down with the increase in the number of colored beams. But the figure was the same, and unfortunately, so was the result. The explosion came out at the same time as the last. More beams came, more blasts shook the room, and more time passed with every turn. 100 years passed, but there was no one to appreciate the efforts of the creator. The numbers of the two different colored beams had risen to over 10,000 combined. Soon, cracks began originating from the white walls as well. A black slimy liquid came out of the cracks as if the walls were bleeding. The red room shook, chunks of walls fell into the blood puddle, gathering after each fleshly explosion, along with the slimy black liquid. Just as the time came for this figure to explode, the beams didn't fade away but went inside this hideous red-black puddle. With an unseen ferocity, it condensed, forming a nail-sized object in no time. More solid than a liquid, but not solid enough either. All the laser beams fumed with exhaustion and pushed the queer object into the figure's chest. Cracks appeared on the boy's figure, and the time of the explosion had come and gone. The cracks kept appearing and disappearing, and the object embedded in the figure's chest kept losing its size. The beams could take it no longer and disappeared, with no sign of coming back. The room had regained its whiteness, but the cracks in its walls stood out. The price had been paid. When the object had all but vanished in the boy's chest, the widening cracks on his body paused. Then they started to close up. The bones mended, the flesh sewed, and fresh skin formed. When the last crack over his chest was getting closed, a grain-sized thing could be seen churning just right of the figure's heart. Whatever the object had meant to do, it did it wonderfully and survived. Finally, the figure was complete. A wave of freshness filled the room. It was like a sudden gust of wind, which comes and goes as it pleases. It engulfed the figure, filling its lungs, and all the organs, veins, and every other part of the body. The chest rose and fell. Once more. Kai's eyes snapped open, his pupils narrowing from the sudden whiteness. He had to blink several times to not get overwhelmed by the blinding color. What is this? Where am I? Didn't I die? Questions bombarded Kai's mind. The moment he realized he could think, his eyes went down to his body. He was shocked. There were no injuries and only a phantom pain squirmed in his chest. Kai touched his chest, and the last scene of his death came back to him. Suddenly, his mind spun, and he snapped his head left, right, and back. But aside from the white walls, he could find nothing. He isn't here, Kai told himself. He is dead. Hello, Kai could do nothing but say out his thoughts aloud. Is anyone? As if waiting for him to say something, a reply came to him. Welcome to the Primordial Tower, Kai Stormborn. The voices echoed within the room, for voices they were. Kai could distinctly hear two different voices saying the same sentence. The strange thing was that he didn't find it odd. It seemed perfectly natural for these voices to be together, as if they were meant to be like this. Who is this? Kai shouted, now warily. Where am I? Trust was a word Kai had erased from his mind long ago. He certainly had died, but the condition of his body told a different tale. He had revived, in a condition he could scarcely remember himself to ever in the last 2 years. All the more reason to be cautious, Kai told himself. Is it the fabled resurrection? Kai waited, remembering what he could about a senseless topic he had never cared about, and the voices replied. Kai Stormborn, you have been found worthy to be a contestant of the Primordial Tower. Worthy? Kai already doubted whatever was coming next. He had heard such tones and words many times. The primordial tower is a battlefield where contestants put their lives on the line to use the benefits of the systems. It is also the means to gain unmeasurable power and strength. In primordial tower, either you die a cruel death or get to live and become an overlord. There are only two paths and it will be you who will decide which path to choose. Two paths. Kai wondered if it was really so, but he restrained himself from voicing out his doubts. System? Unmeasurable power? I don't understand any of it, Kai said. The big word sounded cool to him, and the prospects of gaining power which solely belonged to him were mouth-watering. But Kai had learned that every rise in strength comes with a price. What price will I have to pay this time? Kai remembered his life and asked himself. As if answering his thoughts, the space in front of him twisted and a hologram appeared. It was an immense tower, more like a spire than a cylinder. It hovered there, rotating on its axis, shining brilliantly in red and blue like an exquisite gemstone. Kai couldn't take his eyes off it. Something about it made him uneasy, but not in a bad way. The feeling leaned more towards the expectancy than the fear of the unknown. The primordial tower has 7 sets of 3 floors each, and every third floor is a roadblock filtering out the worthless. The contestants of the two systems battle each other on each floor from time to time. Contestants can gain mission credits for completing a mission and attribute points to increase their strength along with many skills and items in the random worlds. If the mission is not completed in the specified time limit, then the contestant will be judged unworthy. Kai needed not to be told what the voices meant by the word judged. From the example and the emphasis on the random world, Kai could tell that the only way to become stronger was to complete the missions. The battle within the tower was nothing but the price for that power. A world where strong becomes stronger and weak becomes weaker, Kai thought, his expectancy turning in elation. I like it. He didn't understand the idea of random worlds and credits and attribute points, but he was sure when it came to killing, he could hold his own no matter where he was to go. When he was young, Kai had believed knowledge was supreme. Seeing his mother and father, whose face he didn't even remember, surrounded by people with happy faces, he could see himself as a scientist then. But the cunning years had brought him to reality. Those who only seek knowledge will be slaughtered like animals, Kai told himself. What I need now is absolute power to serve as the backbone for my knowledge. Kai looked at the tower, like a precious treasure made only for him, when he noticed something odd. 7 sets of 3 floors each, he counted, but there are 22 floors on it. Before Kai could ask about the 22nd floor, the voices spoke again. All contestants are divided among the two systems of the primordial tower. Now you must choose, to which system you will give the authority to judge you, Kai Stormborn. Chaos or order? Chaos or order, Kai dared not answer. He had seen order in his last 2 years of life when his eyes and ears weren't clouded. What looked orderly was actually rotten from within. He had also tasted chaos, a flavor of blood, one drop in the mouth, and one can forget to ever get rid of that sensation. That taste grew over you, consuming senses and thoughts alike. Kai wanted no more lifelong enemies. He only had one, and he had already killed him, blasting him to pieces alongside himself. All worlds, imagined or real, consist of both order and chaos. Order, as the name suggests, assign missions that are in the favor of balance. Chaos prefers imbalance. The direct battles of the tower's floors are the manifestation of the indirect struggles within the random worlds outside it. Aside from their inherent nature, both systems work identically. They don't do favorites, neither do they know mercy. In the end, those who are unworthy will be judged the same. Balance doesn't mean good or evil, Kai reflected. He did not care about it either, but the lack of data given by the voices troubled him. He knew there was more to it than what was told to him. I just don't know what to ask. The voices continued, uncaring of Kai's furrowing brows. Before your first transfer to the primordial tower, you must undergo an initiation mission. By selecting one of the 2 missions that will be given to you, you can submit your choice. The initiation mission is to make you familiarize yourself with your stats, abilities, skills, and general working of future missions. The difficulty setting will be the lowest, and your pain factor will be reduced for free this one time. If you complete the mission within the time limit, then you will be transferred to the tower, otherwise, your existence will be erased. Cruel and blunt, Kai noticed. Now it feels more natural. The towering hologram disappeared, and rows of dull gray-colored words materialized in front of Kai. Kai couldn't tell if the words had appeared in his eyes or in the room space. Seeing these words, he even doubted if the hologram of the tower was real or not. Mission: assist Thunder Faction in saving the life of Beetle the Bard. Mission summary: Mr. Beetle has completed the book which can alter the course of the future. The book, The Tales of Beetle the Bard, is an anthology telling many strange stories. It is written in the runic alphabet and enchanted so that none other than the wizard himself can read and make sense of its contents. If he were to die before delivering the book in safe hands, the book will very well rot away without revealing its secrets. Because of the power of magic, Mr. Beetle must hand over the book personally. The Thunder Faction is tasked to provide a safe passage to the wizard. Mission objective: you will be a guard in the unit, where the captain of the guard will give you certain tasks which may be counted as part of this mission. Mission time limit: 48 hours. Mission grade: E. Note: 1. A mission grade can differ from contestant to contestant even if they are in the same random world. 2. A contestant's mission grade can differ from the overall grade of a random world. Kai stared at the sentences, reading them over once. The mission seemed simple, the details even simpler, but that hadn't made him doubt what he was reading. Beetle the Bard, The Tales of Beetle the Bard. These words were strange to Kai. The words in Kai's eyes faded and a new notification appeared, shining dull gray, but with an unseen ferocity. Mission: kill a Thunder Faction's guard assigned in saving the life of Beetle the Bard. Mission: assist Thunder Faction in saving the life of Beetle the Bard. Mission summary: Mr. Beetle has completed the book which can alter the course of the future. The book, The Tales of Beetle the Bard, is an anthology telling many strange stories. It is written in the runic alphabet and enchanted so that none other than the wizard himself can read and make sense of its contents. If he were to die before delivering the book in safe hands, the book will very well rot away without revealing its secrets. Because of the power of magic, Mr. Beetle must hand over the book personally. The Thunder Faction is tasked to provide a safe passage to the wizard. Mission objective: you must kill at least 1 guard assigned personally for the safety of Mr. Beetle to loosen their defense. Mission time limit: 48 hours. Mission grade: E. This left a bitter taste in Kai's mouth, but there was one more pressing question. Which one is issued by the order, and which one by the chaos? Chapter 4, Chaos or Order, The First Random World, 2. Published by Scribble Hub. Kai was in a conundrum. For all he knew, killing could restore order, as much as saving, like a flutter of butterfly wings, could cause chaos. What to do now? Kai asked himself, just as he finished reading the notifications. The vanished mission returned by its side. Both missions flashed, luring his eyes towards them, like the bait of a wild beast, and Kai dared not bet his future on a wild guess. This choice would dictate his future, his end if he were to be wrong. Kai closed his eyes. Scenes after scenes raced by his mind, like a blurry photoreel. Most of it was blood and pain, the rest was claimed by unending screams, and hidden in the gaps were events of Kai trying to deceive others, using them, manipulating them. I am a loner, yes, but without the people surrounding me, I am not truly alone, Kai realized. Only when there is order, there can be chaos. Kai's eyes opened, the doubts were gone, hesitations, if any, erased. He knew what his choice was, or he had always known what it would be. I choose to assist Thunder Faction in saving the life of Beetle the Bard. As soon as he spoke, the mission to kill faded, diffusing into the room space, leaving behind its counterpart to take the center stage. Kai waited for more words to appear to show the results of his well-thought choice. But dizziness hit him sooner than that, rocking his mind to the gates of darkness. When vision returned to him, he found himself in a small room. He was laying still on a bed and the roof above was soggy wood. Then the smell hit him, damp and a touch of rot mixed in. Kai sat up and noticed there were clothes on him, unlike before. A short coat over loose pants. They were old, just by the appearance, and torn from the seams. Servant? Kai passively guessed. He stood up and looked around. There weren't many things in the room, including the bed. There was a table, a stool, and a closet, its handle all gone, leaving a wooden stump. With brisk steps, Kai stepped to the table. A few yellowish papers were laid there. Their texture felt like rough, flaky skin when Kai touched it. Parchments, he recognized. Kai had read about them in one of his home lessons. Besides the parchments was a bottle of black ink, a cork dug deep in its mouth. Placed behind the ink bottle was a quill, its nib blackened, and red brownish feathers at the other end. Now what? Kai thought. The quill answered his thoughts. It lifted by itself. The cork over the ink bottle popped out gently. As the quill dipped its nib in the massive liquid blackness, a parchment left its restive post and hovered at Kai's eye level over the table. Magic. Kai's eyes shone with an unmatched brightness. Even in his previous world, there was only technology and death. All strange things had only one origin, Oxycron, the virus. If there was anything worthy to call magic in his world, then that was harnessing the blood essence of a beast. Kai straightened his back and eyed the quill kissing the parchment, held by a force he knew nothing about. It wrote in beautiful cursive writing. The history of magic is as old as the time itself for some, even longer for others. It is everywhere, and yet only a few are worthy to see its wonders. To some, it remains elusive. To some, it grants power more than a man could ever need. Books aren't enough to cover everything about it, only enough to amaze the feeble minds of readers. This is a world of magic, wonders, dreams, and desires that can either make you the brightest soul or can show you darkness, where even light is afraid to reach. 15th century AD, magic is booming, old myths are dying, and magical technology is advancing like never. But throughout history, change has been resisted by people. Few look favorably to see magic growing more than it already has. Mr. Beetle, one of the many wizards, is caught between these two extremes. Chaos welcomes you, Kai Stormborn. Help Mr. Beetle to spread his tales throughout the magical world of Harry Potter. So it is chaos, Kai noted, ignoring the unfamiliar words like Harry Potter for now. Kai was happy with either of the two systems, if he was being honest. Only power mattered. The quill left the parchment, its nib trailing dry lines on the rough texture. A quick dip in the ink bottle, and it was back on its task. You are to be mindful of the following things from now on in all the random worlds. 1. You must reveal nothing about the systems or the primordial tower to any character within the random world. 2. A main mission is subdivided into many side missions. To score a 100% clear rate, you must complete all the side missions. The side missions will give individual rewards, and the clear rate of the main mission will decide your overall rewards. 3. Hidden missions can be triggered anytime during your stay in the random world. Like the side missions, you need to do certain tasks or interact with certain in-world characters to trigger them. The grade of hidden missions is, generally, higher than your main missions. 4. Your body stats are digitized from now on. You can access your stats by thinking or saying status. 5. A storing space of 1 cubic meter and a weight limit of 1,000 kilograms is accessible to all contestants. You can access the space by thinking or saying inventory. The space and weight limit can be increased using mission credits or as an effect of certain titles, skills, etc. 6. Once your HP, health points, becomes 0, you will die. Once your MP, mana points, becomes 0, you will pass out. Once your SP, spiritual points, becomes 0, your soul will be damaged. And 7. You can obtain loot by killing contestants of order in random worlds. Note. 1. You can decide to not accept any of the side missions. In that case, completing the main mission will be counted as passed with the lowest clear rate. 2. You can decide to not accept the hidden mission. Once accepted, the time limit will be adjusted accordingly. And 3. Only items with stats can be stored in inventory. The quill had left the parchment, giving Kai enough time to read the notification many times over. So I can't know about the side missions and the hidden missions beforehand, Kai thought with a grimace on his face. Troublesome indeed. What really caught his eyes, though, was the word, loot. Not waiting any longer, Kai called out, status. A dull gray-colored notification window appeared right into Kai's eyes. Status of contestant, Kai Stormborn. Codename, not set. System, chaos. Main mission world, Harry Potter. Main mission status, on hold. Mission time limit, 48 hours. Mission grade, E. Equipped title, not applicable. Mission credits, 0. HP, 100. MP, 70. SP, 60. Active attributes. Strength, 12. Agility, 14. Stamina, 10. Perception, 12. Correspondence, 7. Breath, 6. Passive attributes. Charisma, 20. Luck, 2. Worth, 100. Abilities. 1. Elementary slither footsteps, proficiency 27%. 2. Elementary twin saber style, proficiency 35%. Skills not applicable. Glitch blood devour, hibernating. Items not applicable. Pain factor, 0.5, beginner's benefit. Inventory, 1 cubic meter 1,000 kilogram. Note. 1. Your stamina is a measure of your life essence and dictates HP. 2. Your correspondence is a measure of your magical affinity and dictates MP. 3. Your breath is a measure of your spiritual affinity and dictates SP. And 4. A pain factor of 0.5 means 50% reduction in contestants' pain stemming from physical sources only. Kai didn't know much. Even then he could tell something was disastrously wrong with his luck and worth. Then there was this glitch, blood devour. Without considering Kai's doubts, the quill scratched the parchment again. Contestants can allot attribute points to active attributes only. You can know more about your stats using mission credits or from other contestants. Once you leave this room, a timer of 48 hours will be turned on. You must complete your main mission within the time limit. Everything revolves around these mission credits, Kai reflected. The quill went for a quick splash and came back. A one-time service of allotting a codename is available to all contestants. This codename will be visible to all contestants, in the primordial tower and the random worlds, during certain scenarios. Set your codename. A codename, Kai took a deep breath. All the experiences of his previous life flashed by his mind. How the people cursed him, calling him blood demon. How they framed him as a murderer. How they labeled him as a monster. Then Kai remembered the one being who had made it possible for him to exact his revenge. The beast who had sacrificed itself to be a part of him, granting him strength and identity. Call me. The image of a huge serpent with slitted eyes bubbled in Kai's thoughts. Red. A tussle of parchments arrested his attention. Once more, the quill lifted and scribbled all the details Kai had already seen before in the white room. The main mission, its summary, objective, time limit, and grade. The moment quill finished its task, it fell lifeless away from the parchments. A notification flashed dull gray in Kai's eyes right away. Congratulations contestant Kai Stormborn. You have triggered a side mission. Main mission, assist Thunder faction in saving the life of Beetle the Bard. Side mission, hand over the proof letter to the captain of guard. Side mission summary, the captain of guard will have many guards serving under him. As it is impossible to see other contestant stats, you must provide a proof letter to him to prove your allegiance to chaos. Side mission objective, acceptance of your proof letter. Side mission time limit, not applicable. Do you accept the side mission? Yes. Kai grabbed the proof letter and walked out of the room. Main mission timer is triggered. The notification flashed twice before disappearing. The wooden floor creaked under Kai's feet as he stepped down the stairs. First, it was the stinging smoke, then came the powerful smell of alcohol. Both hit his nose unwantedly. They were closely followed by a cacophony creeping up in his ears from downwards. Down the stairs, with every next step he took, the noises became louder but distinct. The Wizard's Council is at it again, I tell you. I thank late Ms. Ignatia Wildsmith every day. How in God's name wizards used to commute before? Go on, don't dawdle here. Yeah, I am speaking to you. A push shoved Kai down the stairs, and a plump man crossed him from behind, giving him a disgusting look. It was then their eyes matched. The plump man stopped and the disgusting look on his face all but vanished. Touching his hat, he gave an apologetic smile to Kai and then walked away. What was that? The stark contrast between the expressions on man's face before and after looking at him shocked Kai. It's your charisma. A voice crawled up the stairs. Kai's gaze followed the voice to its source. It was a black hooded man, with a black white stubble on his chin and a bald upper lip. Even though there was a cloak around him, Kai could tell the man was big, both in height and weight, just short of being called fat. The man turned around and began walking toward the main door of the inn as Kai stepped down, almost forcing him to follow. Charisma is not only a face card value, but it influences a contestant's interactions with the in-world characters, too, he continued. It also dictates how the in-world characters will perceive a contestant in different scenarios. The system had informed Kai about the captain of guard. So it didn't come as a surprise to Kai that either the captain of guard had come himself or had sent another guard to receive him. Got me? The man asked, his head twisting left and right warily as they walked out of the inn. What's there to get? Kai shrugged. I am handsome, I know it. The man suddenly paused, making Kai almost bump into him. Mechanically, he turned around and stared at Kai with a stunned expression in his brown eyes. Ha ha ha, he suddenly broke out with a feat of laughter. Whoa, a newbie with a sense of humor? How did you die? Rolled over the bed or something? Ha ha ha. When Kai didn't reply, the man continued the walk through the alley, pitter-patter of rain buzzing in their ears. Name's Desmond, the man introduced himself, taking a right turn. Kai kept following the man, his eyes darting around, trying to find the barest hint of any trap. After a few minutes, Desmond stopped. We're here. It was a small hut, Kai observed. The trail of smoke coming out of its low chimney was thin and blurry under the drizzle. You have been trying too hard, you know, Desmond said, knocking the hut's door rhythmically. Ha ha, never heard of Harry Potter, have you? Kai's hazel pupils narrowed. The hut's door opened with a creak. An advice, Desmond smiled as he stepped in and said, forget everything you have learned before dying. It won't be of much use here. Kai tried to follow Desmond, but his steps faltered involuntarily, an incredible expression surfacing on his face. What the? Chapter 5, Awakening Glitch, Blood Devourer, 1. Published by Scribble Hub. Kai couldn't believe it. The hut, which looked like it could fall with a slight shake of wind, was even bigger than the inn's ground floor he had left behind. A hall, draped beds, closets full of books, and the blazing hearth. It was like stepping into a whole another world. It was more mystical than anything Kai had ever seen in his previous life. It was magic. The word bubbled in Kai's heart, stirring the old, buried strings of a youth he had never experienced. Come here. A commanding tone reached Kai's ears. He took his eyes off the things and focused on the people. In the middle of the hall, surrounding a big round table, were 3 people. Desmond's hood had fallen back, letting others see his short black hairs. A few white patches lingered on his head as a sign of age. Kai approached the table, searching for an exit, but couldn't find one. The door behind him had shut the moment he had walked into the supposedly small hut. A dangerous place, Kai concluded. In the middle, there was a man, leaner and younger than Desmond. Clean shaved, he had shoulder-length blue hair, and his head was down, looking at the map. The third one was a woman, taller than both men. He is, Desmond stuttered. Don't tell me you haven't even asked his name, the woman asked, shocked. It doesn't matter, Sonia. The same commanding tone came out from the middle. The blue-haired man struggled to take his eyes off the map, but he won the battle in the end. His eyes were blue, too. Let me do the honors, Captain. Desmond stepped out, his face already red from the intense stare of the woman. You know me, right? She is Sonia, and we both are from the second floor. Shay, the one glued to the books over there, is another newbie. Then there is Simon, from the first floor. He is in the basement, guarding you-know-who. There is even a basement, Kai thought, feeling more amazed the more he got to know about it. You seriously have the gall to make jokes, Desmond, Sonia rebuked. Oh, come on, that would have floored him if he knew what I was talking about. Desmond felt wronged and shrugged at Sonia. You mean, Sonia gasped. A newbie who knows nothing about this world, the man muttered with a brilliant shine in his eyes. He looked Kai up and down, and smiled. I am Arlen Willie, captain of guard of the Thunder faction. Kai matched Arlen's gaze, red. Shay approached them from the other corner. Her hands were wrapped around a thick book, her hair was blonde, and hidden behind her glasses were ebony-colored pupils. Kai noticed how Arlen kept looking at Shay as she came. His pupils narrowed, a weakness. These were all killers, according to the rules of the Primordial Tower. Kai felt he had to up his game if he wanted them to dance on his fingers. Go on then, hand over the letter, Arlen demanded, looking away from Shay reluctantly. The casual atmosphere suddenly turned sharp. Even Desmond's cheery attitude vanished at the mention of the letter. Sonia walked away from the table, and Kai found her stopping on his right. Shay was already on his left, backed up by Desmond. I am surrounded, Kai observed. With a flick of his wrist, Kai threw the proof letter toward Arlen, who caught it midair. Under the heavy silence, Arlen went through the letter, his blue eyes shifting left and right. Suddenly, his calm expression stirred, his face distorting in absolute rage. Apprehend him, the captain of guard ordered menacingly. What? Kai raised his eyebrows, every inch of his muscles entering the battle mode. Before he could get an explanation, Sonia was upon him. Kai had seen she was tall, but when her kick came, aimed at his head, she felt even taller. He ducked, moving to his left. The kick missed but followed his head. It had come fast, and now it was faster. The hair on Kai's neck stood up, knowing the damage this kick would do if it were to land. He didn't know what to do. But his body did, the muscle memories kicking in at last. Kai's toes applied a burst of force at their tip, and his legs slid like tracing the track of a snake, slithering and undulating as if they were on the sand. The kick landed on the floor with a bang, but Kai had dodged it, shifting to his left again in one smooth motion. Sonia was shocked. No way he just dodged all that. She was a second floor's contestant, where Red was nothing but a newbie. Shay stepped back, keeping herself away from the fight. Desmond frowned, thinking the same. However, Arlen's eyes lit up, picking up the not-so-obvious detail. Humph. Sonia snorted. She spun, kicking the floor, and sent kicks after kicks at Kai. Head, legs, hands, and stomach, her slim and large legs covered all. Her loose long pants couldn't hinder her movements at all. It was just, she couldn't touch Kai. By the width of a hair, Kai dodged her kicks, sliding his legs on the floor in a slithering motion. He wasn't even controlling them as this sliding motion was encoded in his muscles and bones. Grit your teeth, kid, Desmond suggested. Suddenly, a heavy, nauseating feeling overtook Kai, almost making him vomit if he hadn't gulped it down back. He looked at Desmond and noticed the light golden hue churning in his brown eyes. What's this? Kai was struggling to bury that deep nausea inside him, but Sonia didn't wait to follow up on Desmond's assistance. She sent a roundhouse kick at Kai's chest, too fast to dodge. Shockingly, Kai didn't even try to move out of the way. He had been waiting for it all along. Sonia's kick landed right where he wanted. A trace of blood trickled from Kai's mouth as he was sent flying backward. Sonia, this was not, Desmond roared, but couldn't finish his sentence. What happened next left them all flabbergasted. Kai rolled on the floor, and just as he approached Shay, he jumped to his feet with unbelievable nimbleness. Shay was still petrified from the events when Kai lunged at her, climbed on her back, and wrapped his legs around her waist. Simultaneously, his hand went to his back and pulled out a knife hidden above his hips under the short coat. It looked like this wasn't the first time he was doing something like that. The sequence of motion was too smooth. Ah, Shay cried, finding the knife's edge at her throat. Kai felt the slight tremors in his body as Shay trembled, but it didn't prevent him from tearing the skin over her throat to give the knife a touch of blood. Ignoring Desmond and Sonia, Kai eyed Arlen and the wooden stick in his hand. The hair on the back of his neck stood up. He had already lost 20 HP, but the threat buzzing off from the wooden stick surpassed all nauseating feelings. Let her go, Arlen said slowly, the wooden stick in his hand trembling. Ha, Kai snickered. You guys attacked me for no reason, and now you think I would just let her go? Arlen, Captain, the kid's right. Desmond stepped forward, eyeing Kai strangely. Sorry for testing you like this, Red, he told Kai, sharing a glance with Sonya. Every small step and decision in this world can cause death, and bring doom upon all members. We couldn't just let anyone be a part of the team. We just wanted to make sure you can handle yourself or not. But, things got out of hands. Something's wrong, Sonya chimed in. Hey, do you have an elementary ability? Of course, he has. Arlen barked, sounding angry, surprised, and greedy simultaneously. Desmond had his doubts, but now he gulped. Red, he said, his breath pausing. What's your worth? Kai narrowed his eyes even further. He didn't tell them about having not one but two abilities. Instead, he saw a chance to know more about this worth which stood out among his stats. Around 10, he replied vaguely, keeping the value close to his active attributes. However, even with this value, Desmond's jaw dropped and Sonya's lips paled. Arlen's pupils shook, his grip on the wooden stick loosening. Damn it, he TSKED. What a headache. Okay, I accept your proof letter. Let her go now. As soon as Arlen said the words, a notification appeared in front of Kai. Side mission. Hand over the proof letter to the captain of guard. Side mission status. Success. Side mission rewards. 50 mission credits. Kai vomited, for the third time. So this is a soul attack, affecting my SP, Kai reflected. Desmond had already apologetically told him about it. The sudden turn of events, and drastic changes in others' behavior around him, had made Kai see his worth attribute in a new light. He'd rather not think about what could have happened if he had uttered a bigger number. It would have been my doom. What else? Kai answered himself, remembering the greed in Arlen's eyes. He vomited again. Here, drink this. Sonya approached him and threw a leather water pouch with a stopper at its mouth. And now we are even. Even? The demon within Kai smirked murderously. There will come a time when I will let you know there's no such word. Kai caught the water pouch, and a notification popped up above it. Item, Sellsword's water pouch. Grade, common. Specification, spring water mixed with rare herbs and spices. Capacity 600 milliliters. Requirement, HP greater than 0, SP greater than 0. Attributes, not applicable. Skill, not applicable. Effect, HP, plus 5, per 100 milliliters. Quality, 70%. This was the first time Kai had held an item. He could feel a strange aura coming off it as if it didn't belong to him. Kai threw open the stopper and gulped down 2 big mouthfuls of the water. The moment it went down his throat, Kai felt a burning feeling in his stomach. In the next moment, the feeling spread through his entire body like fire. Kai's HP restored to its actual value within seconds. Impressive. Don't mind her, she's like that, Desmond said, smiling and nearing Kai and Sonya. You two know each other? Kai had noticed Desmond's familiarity with the tall woman. Desmond smiled wryly and winked. Sonya rolled her eyes. What's this all about worth? Kai asked, handing over the water pouch. He'd rather not remain in dark about his own stats, especially after seeing Arlen's reaction. What's it got to do with having abilities? Sonya sighed, taking the item. I should have realized that was an elementary ability the first time you had dodged my kick. Desmond licked his lips. Worth is the trickiest attribute, he whispered, forcing the distant shade to come closer to listen. Some call it the tower's judgment, some systems wrath. Sonya nodded. Abilities are the hardest to obtain in the primordial tower, because they are much more innate to a contestant, she added. If you have a high initial worth after resurrection, then the chances of you having an ability from the get-go also rises. Moreover, the higher the initial worth, the higher it will rise. There is no proof, but it's theorized that worth also affect a mission's progression and results. So, having a contestant with high worth in your team is a bonus no one would deny. Kai nodded to himself. So that's why Arlen didn't act on his anger even when I was climbing his bitch. Get this, Desmond said, smiling, me and Sonya are second floor contestants, but our worth is still 1. Arlen over there is a third floor contestant, and his worth cannot be greater than 3. Believe me, not only that, if you can obtain more than 5 attribute points in your worth within the first set, then you will be called the luckiest contestant. Kai's pupils trembled. I must never reveal my actual worth to anyone, he promised himself. Move aside, Arlen said, putting himself between Kai and Shay. He threw a map between them and took out the wooden stick. Wand. Kai called out the name, noticing the hate hidden behind Arlen's words. Desmond had already told him about the basics of this random world and the magical tool used by the wizards and witches here. Kai saw the map. 2 dots were shimmering over it, far from each other. The names of places were fluttering like flags in a storm, and tiny magical beasts were roaring, flying, and jumping, signaling their presence here and there. We have come here 2 days before you newbies, Arlen said. Now we must take Mr. Beetle from our current location to here. He pointed a red dot on the map, with the name Dufftown hovering over it, shining menacingly under its hue. So we are in London, Kai said, looking at the blue dot. The distance was too far, and it didn't seem to him they had the means to cover it in 48 hours. How are we supposed to go there in such a short time? That's why we were waiting for you and Shay, Desmond said, standing behind Sonya. We will need broomsticks. Kai saw Arlen mumbling something inaudible and suddenly a dull gray-colored notification appeared in front of his eyes. Congratulations contestant Kai Stormborn. You have triggered a side mission. Main mission, assist Thunder Faction in saving the life of Beetle the Bard. Side mission, assist contestant Desmond in stealing a broomstick. Side mission summary, the distance between London and Dufftown is long and treacherous if covered by ground. The only sure way is to use broomsticks and travel through the air. You must secure enough broomsticks to escort Mr. Beetle with Thunder Faction's full strength. Side mission objective, secure at least 1 broomstick. Side mission time limit, not applicable. Do you accept the side mission? Chapter 6, Awakening Glitch, Blood Devourer, 2. Published by Scribble Hub. Kai followed Desmond as they traced the moonlight, walking with buried steps along the walls. So the danger I picked up from Arlen was because of perception? Arlen had sent Shay with Sonya, but the side missions they had gotten were the same. Desmond nodded, his head shifting left and right. Perception reflects all your senses, he told Kai. It allows you to sense others' presence, their intentions, and dangers. The higher the danger, the quicker perception will pick it up. But it's also a double-edged sword. The higher the gap between you and the other contestant, the higher will be the chances for perception to fail. If your attacker has an overwhelming advantage over you in perception attribute alone, he or she can easily trick you. Kai hunched in Desmond's shadow, pondering over the consequences of having an advantage in perception. It took us an entire day to figure out where to get the broomsticks, Desmond said under his breath. If it weren't for Mr. Beetle, we wouldn't have even gotten one. Kai had yet to even see Mr. Beetle. Arlen had forbidden anyone even stepping towards the basement. Arlen's mission differed from even Desmond and Sonya's, Kai had presumed. Why can't Mr. Beetle just apparate to Dufftown? Kai asked. Desmond had told him it was some kind of teleportation magic. The man's a wizard, Desmond replied, using the nickname they had given him, but I have never seen such a coward in my entire life. He fears getting splinched, and worse, he fears leaving that book of his behind. Let me not think of what dangers will be awaiting him in Dufftown. Arlen said there will be contestants from the 4th to 6th floor there. Kai had felt the strength behind Sonya's kick. He still remembered the pain, even after the pain factor had reduced it in half. And she's from the 2nd floor, Kai reflected. How much stronger a contestant from the 4th floor would be? Where did you get the knife anyway? Desmond asked. I swear I had my eyes on you. You didn't steal anything. Kai kept quiet, but smirked inwardly. Desmond might have advantage over him as an experienced contestant, but if someone like him could catch him thieving, then he wouldn't have been survived even a day in his previous life. Desmond shook his head. Here, he pointed, taking a sharp turn into a dark alley. The walls on both sides successfully hid the moonlight, darkening whatever lay ahead. Stand back. Kai put his back against the wall and took out the knife he had stolen from the inn. None had an item to spare for him. Desmond looked around a bit before halting against an ordinary metal pipe jutting out of the ground. It was so small and dark that if one wasn't looking for it, then it was almost impossible to notice it. Desmond gave Kai a look, and then, using all his strength, he pushed the pipe down. Click. A door opened right by Kai's side, and a ray of light escaped out. Kai could have sworn there were real bricks by his side, but seeing the wooden door, he doubted himself. Kai peered inside and saw many miscellaneous things placed in an orderly and disorderly fashion. There were skeletons, animals' organs, strange instruments, and colored potions in glass vials. You heard something? Desmond whispered. Kai shook his head. Desmond enlarged the opening with deft hands, stopping whenever the door showed signs of creaking. Soon they were inside the room, the wooden door vanishing behind them, turning into a wall. It's on the second floor, Desmond said, his head moving from one side to another. It's Rick and Peary's shop of 100 wonders. Don't ask. I don't know about the name either. The entrance is there, 10 steps ahead on the first right turn. The entire shop is empty for 2 hours. If... Desmond looked directly at Kai, a golden hue already surrounding his pupils. If anyone comes, dash to the second floor and find me. Don't attack. He said the last words, not whispering anymore, and then he walked away, as nimble as a cat. For a man of his size, he sure is swift, Kai thought, seeing Desmond's disappearing figure. The right turn Desmond had spoken of was behind the stairs leading up the second floor. Left alone, Kai jumped to his feet. The sound left him as if he was just a wind sigh. He walked, picking up things, turning them over, and then putting them back, just as they were. Desmond was swift, Kai was swifter. Those who kill in the dark shouldn't be friends with sound, Kai had learned. Kai looked at the shelves of potions. A dangerous but mysterious feeling hit him as he thought of approaching them. His eyes shined. If not all, then at least one of these potions was an item. Kai was sure of it. Kai stepped towards the shelf, his heart throbbing with expectation. Click. The danger shot through the roof out of nowhere. The sound was so loud to Kai's ears that it felt like a bomb. Kai snapped his head and saw the metal door materializing. Unlike him, whoever was out didn't need to peer inside before charging through the door. Kai remembered Desmond's warning and dashed towards the stairs. A hooded figure was already standing there. One more person appeared from behind it. Kill him, the hooded figure said and dashed up the stairs. Desmond, Kai shouted, and took the left turn with the 2 other contestants almost on his back. It was an ambush. I did not hear them coming. The thought shot through Kai's mind involuntarily. A fist came hurtling at his back, but Kai dodged it easily, sliding his feet on the floor as if there was oil on the ground. It was a long corridor in front of him. Rows of doors were on either side and a single door at the end, blocking the path. In only 20 steps of distance, he would be cornered. They were already here when we had entered, Kai concluded. The man shouted behind him, frustrated by the missed punch. Kai could hear the second man walking leisurely towards their racing figures as if he had all the time in the world. Just die, idiot, the man said, catching his breath. He was in his 20s, gaunt but tall. His hands were long, his reach longer. There were greed and anger in his eyes, gleaming like 2 distinct lamps in a dark alley. A newbie. Kai didn't take long to guess. Only a newbie would run at him with such greed and without weapons. Kai had noticed a hammer dangling by his waist, but the prospects of completing the main mission must have made him lose his rationality. And that made another fact pass by Kai's mind. He knows I am a newbie too. So what if circumstances had forced Kai to become a killer instead of scientist, a demon instead of a messiah? The cold, calculative reasoning skills were as much a part of him as the muscle memories. Calm down, Robin, a heavy voice reached Kai and his attacker from afar. The kid has nowhere to go. Kai had reached the door at the end. He turned and put his back against it, touching the dry wood, scratching his skin through the clothes. Robin stopped, too. The second one isn't a newbie, Kai thought with dismay. A loud noise of something breaking hard against a wall came down from the upper floors through the stairs. The man laughed. His teeth were yellow and his eyes were brown and sharp. There was a thick mustache and a thin beard on his face. His hair was all but gone, his scalp reflecting the little light lingering in the corridor. A long sword appeared in his hand. An item. Kyle, Robin said, glancing at the man's sword. This is my kill. Don't interfere. Ha ha. Kyle showed his yellow teeth again, his left hand tracing the sword length. Don't worry, I am just here to watch a show. Robin took out his hammer, shaking it fiercely left and right. Kai had no visible weapon on him. He had already hidden the knife the moment he had heard the click. Robin stepped forward. Kai was faster. The hammer wasn't big, just a little less than the size of a fist, but solid metal. When Robin brought it down, it didn't look like Kai would survive even a single blow. It touched Kai's hair, then it passed down effortlessly, almost kissing his neck. The power behind the hammer was so great that it threw Robin off balance and hunched him forward. When the knife appeared in Kai's hand, it felt nothing short of magic. He threw his legs up, wrapping them around Robin's waist, making both of them fell on top of each other. Mind-numbing shrieks came out from the dark end of the corridor. A wet sound of something being ripped off, chewed, and spit out. Kyle stood there with his long sword, stunned. Whatever was happening in the dark, whatever he was seeing, must have frightened him to dare not approach. Kai stood up. Blood was on his lips, his clothes, and his knife. There was a body between his legs. Of a man? None could tell, at least by not looking at its face. There was a finger-sized hole in the corpse's ears as if someone had nailed screws from one end to another. A thick slimy juice mixed with blood was coming out of them. The body didn't have any lips, its tongue was gone, and its eyes were wide open. Horror, terror, and helplessness, nothing could describe that expression. Kai charged toward Kyle like a bloody wraith. The sight of the corpse must have awakened Kyle's strength, for he brought the long sword up in defense. Saber, Kai whispered. His knife struck the long sword on its flat as Kyle skillfully parried Kai's attack. A broken saber, Kai told himself, thinking of his knife. He glided on the floor, his feet making no sound, and his eyes never leaving the sword. The long sword kept coming at him from left, right, top, and straight, trying to pierce a hole in him. Kai was just too slippery. Like a snake, Kai remembered. The sword eyed his shoulder. Kai gave up defending against it, and his leg went for Kyle's thick leg. Steel entered, cutting everything in its path, but not deep enough. Kai had already tripped the swordsman. Then Kai was upon him. The prey struggled. Kai took his time, the knife doing its work, creating holes all over his prey. 1 time, 2 times, 100 times, it went in and out. At some point, an eye appeared in Kai's hand, and his knife was bent beyond repair. The pain hit, then. Kai's left hand fell, unable to lift itself. He was just too tired. The eye rolled away towards the stairs. Kai saw it stopping beside a pair of feet. It was the same hooded figure, just without the hood. Sunken eyes, long black hairs, and pale skin. Too pale, as if someone had sucked out her life. Kai gave the sword's hilt a quick pull, blood showering off his shoulder. He pointed it at her, his feet already moving. She pointed a wooden stick at him in reply. A wand. When her voice entered his ears, it felt magical. Confringo. Chapter 7. Awakening Glitch, Blood Devour. 3. Published by Scribble Hub. HP regeneration, -30% because of blood loss. Kai got thrown backward, flying through the corridor like a twig amid a storm. His entire body ached, skin torn, and tiny squirts of blood kept bursting out. It felt to him as if he was blowing up from inside out. He could sense it, the taste of death. Hard to forget such a taste once experienced before. The door at the end couldn't stop him either. A creaking boom took over the entire shop as he broke the door and finally landed on the floor. Cough, cough. Blood and spit came out in a quick burst of endless coughing. The corridor had been dark, but this room was darker. The pain made Kai shiver, the cold of death creeping over him, trying to take over his mind. I must not close my eyes, Kai swore. He could feel the wetness in his ears, the thick liquid thinning as it ran down his face, reaching his neck. His vision was blurry, but he could see her. The light highlighted her kneeling figure in front of the stairs. She was vomiting. I can't die here, Kai told himself, struggling for breath, seeing the red HP bar flashing, dwindling like a dying candle's flame. Hiss. The sudden familiar sound jerked Kai's dwindling concentration. There was a time when he understood the sound. Now it was just an animal's snarl. A snake? Where? Kai used whatever strength he had left to lift his head and look around. To his left, a tall box of glass was leaning against the wall, and something was slithering in it. An instinct told Kai to approach the cage, urging him to hurry. Kai felt his toes pressing against the floor as he turned towards his left. He pushed, and sometimes he pulled using his chin, crawling over the floor. Blood never stopped abandoning him. He could feel his attacker rising, and he could feel her anger, which was hidden from him before. Time was running out. The notification appeared out of the blue, brightening his eyes with that dull gray color. Beast proximity, 3 meters. Glitch condition matched. Contestant Kai Stormborn is qualified to awaken his glitch. Do you want to awaken it now? Kai mumbled something. It must have been a yes, for the notification changed. Calculating worth. Glitch is now awakened for 30 minutes in this world. Glitch, blood devour. Specification. 1. Devour a beast's blood essence upon contact. Limit, 3 beasts. 2. Regenerate HP based on the size of the devoured beast. If HP is full, give a temporary boost in strength, agility, and stamina. 3. Imitate natural abilities and skills of devoured beasts, with constraints and requirements. And 4. Only one blood essence's skills can be used at a time for 30 seconds with a cooldown of 5 minutes. A sudden hotness took over him, originating from his chest. Kai felt as if there was something alive, buried deep there. His blood boiled, and his skin became scalding hot, vaporizing the thin liquid all over his body. The sound of approaching steps came through the door. Kai stood up, injected with this sudden hotness. The burning sensation took over his senses like a drug. The long sword was still in his hand, like a drowning man's last straw. Kai tightened his grip over it, ignoring the stats hovering above the item. One quick slash and glass rained down, broken in hundreds of tiny shards. Hiss. The beast hissed and lunged. Kai felt dozens of sharp needle-like teeth digging into his neck, and its thick muscles wrapping around his torso, squeezing him, trying to break his ribs. Kai felt alive. Blood devour. The hotness exploded like a volcanic eruption. A crack appeared over his chest, unseen to Kai, and something wriggled inside. It was starving, raving for the beast outside. The snake sensed danger. Too late. A force, unimaginably stronger than the creature, broke it down into tiny pieces until it became a bloody paste and entered Kai's chest. Only a hissing sigh lingered when Kai opened his eyes. His round hazels had become slits once more. Blood essence. Blue-tailed boa constrictor. Rare non-magical beast. Grade E. Abilities. Elementary snake instinct. Proficiency. 10%. Elementary snake language. Proficiency. 0%. Skills. Light neurotoxin. Grade E. Heat sense. Grade E. Kai's sight was occupied by the words as the red HP bar started to refuel. 10, 20, 40, up to 70. The heinous wound on his shoulder healed first, then the tears of skin vanished, along with the pent-up tiredness. What are you? A tired voice came from behind. Kai turned and faced the woman, the sword still in his hand. It felt too long for his taste, but it was more like a saber than a dagger. She lifted the wand, but Kai disappeared out of her sight, the instinct of a snake taking over his senses. Elementary snake instinct. Something moved in the corner. The wand followed. A crunch of broken glass on the opposite, and the witch couldn't hold on any longer. Confringo. Whatever was left of the glass cage got blasted in the dust. The witch paled, her face becoming the color of a rotten lemon. Death slithered down from above. Kai pressed the lawnsword against her chest. Her skin was tough, but she was weak and defenseless. He looked into her eyes as he kept thrusting the sword into her, slowly, taking his time. Muffled words came out of her mouth with foaming blood. You, he lied. Kai only replied with a goodbye through his eyes. Blood was seeping out of the witch's mouth in 2 distinct trails. Her heart had stopped, but her last words rang, bouncing off the mild darkness. It was as if her ghost was crying a song. Kai took out the sword, slowly. Her blood turned into a puddle, drowning her figure in no time. So, this is Glitch, Kai thought, still drunk in the after effects of using the blood essence. A single non-magical beast has given me 2 abilities and 2 skills. Kai found it hard to imagine what would happen if he were to devour a magical beast. His eyes returned to their original shape. Kai touched his chest and then noticed his right hand. There was a green-colored tattoo there, spotted with brown patches. It had the shape of the snake he had just devoured. The mouth of the snake was like an arrowhead, coiling around his arm, reaching his elbow. Its tail was blue, ending at the tip of his middle finger. His nail looked devoid of blood, deep blue, bordering violet. Now that he wasn't actively using the ability, the tattoo vanished too. Elementary slither footsteps. Proficiency 40%, plus 1 3%. This, Kai remembered this ability hadn't changed when he had used it before against Sonya, and the 2 orders contestants. He couldn't help but relate this progression to his elementary snake instinct. You have killed 3 orders contestants. Congratulations. You now have the option to loot the dead contestant's inventory. A treasure chest hologram appeared over the dead witch's body. Kai looked up and found no such thing on the other disfigured bodies laying in the corridor. A queer feeling rose in his heart, and he snapped his mind towards the woman's right hand. The wand was gone. Damn it, Kai cursed, finding out what was happening. The yellow-toothed man, Kyle, must have only 1 item on him. That's why it didn't return to inventory, but the witch had quite a few. Kai focused on the treasure chest, and another notification appeared. You can either opt to get a random item from contestant's inventory, or you can opt to get a collective value of mission credits, calculated based on the dead contestant's worth, her floor, and her stats. The choice is yours. It was luck that decided the probability of obtaining an item from treasure chest. To be on the safe side this once, and with his heart aching for the lost wand, Kai chose the second option. Calculating collective remuneration. Reward, plus 100 mission credits. The number soothed Kai's heart. The treasure chest disappeared, and whatever secrets the woman might have hidden there along with it. The notification, though, didn't give him time to think about anything. Congratulations contestant Kai Stormborn. You have unlocked 1 title. Title, Murderer. Specification, kill 10 contestants in a single random world. The contestants must be from the same or higher floor than yours. Status, 3/10. Effect, perception plus 2, worth plus 1. Note, only 1 title can be equipped at a time. Seeing the 1 point increase in worth, that too temporarily, Kai could see how hard it was to increase it. Kai felt the heaviness of the sword when the flood of notifications had gone dry. A good look at it, and he could see it was dented from many places. Most of the blade's edge had been blunted from frequent use, but it was still sharp enough for a newbie. Kai's gaze landed on its stats, then. Item, Castle Forged Lawnsword. Grade, Common. Specification, a sword discarded by Castle's apprentice blacksmith. Requirement, Strength 11, Stamina 9. Attributes, base damage 25 points. Skill, not applicable. Effect, Strength plus 1 Agility 1. Quality, 60%. Kai gladly put the item within his inventory. Then he searched through the woman's clothes, stripping her naked. Nothing. Kai looked at her face and the events that had happened replayed through his mind. He was sure now that she and Kyle were already here when Desmond and he had come. The only thing out of place was why he couldn't sense these two's presence. Then it hit him. Perception, yes, she must have a quite higher perception than me, Kai analyzed. After half an hour, Kai found himself again in the same dark alley. He looked up and saw the shattered timber of the window. It was dark, and it became darker as Kai kept walking ahead, the moonlight finding it extremely difficult to follow him. A deep sniff, the smell of blood hit Kai's nose. Someone was there, wounded, and profusely bleeding to give the smell of death to the air. His shoulder was gone. What tissue or strands of muscles were keeping his left hand attached to his body? A profound mystery. Water, the dying man muttered. Kai looked in the direction as pointed by Desmond's right hand. Sellsword's water pouch. Kai could scarcely believe what he was seeing. Why would Sonya give Desmond her item? Why would anyone part from such a precious life-saving thing? Two different questions, but they had the same answer. Kai picked it up and put the water pouch's mouth against Desmond's and let gravity do its work. The entire content got emptied into his stomach in no time. His face flushed. Kai took a deep breath and then scooched over to Desmond's ear. Desmond, he whispered, I have something to tell you. First, tell me, how are you still alive? Desmond asked, catching his breath. I ran, Kai admitted. The moment that hooded figure darted for you, I ran for the main door. Kai wanted Desmond's trust, so he needed to tell a good story. How many were there, aside from her? Desmond meekly asked. Her? Kai feigned surprise. There were two. One was a newbie. The other was stronger than Shay but weaker than Sonya. By now, Kai had confirmed that both Desmond and Sonya had gone easy on him during their light fight. Kai remembered the pale appearance of the witch, even though she was completely fine before going up. Desmond shows simple-mindedness, but he is a scary opponent, Kai noted. He must be from the first floor then, Desmond said, revealing the surprise in his voice. You killed two of them, single-handedly? No, I didn't kill anyone. I couldn't kill anyone, Kai replied, not falling for Desmond's obvious trick. The stronger one had a Longsword item. I barely survived using my elementary ability. Silence took over their conversation then. Kai gave Desmond enough time to toss and turn on the things he had said to him. Anything other than that couldn't have made any sense, either. Kai could have never killed the two Order's contestants, not before facing the injured witch. And she was certain death for Kai. If I didn't have the glitch, Kai added. Sigh, Desmond seemed to have given up on thinking more about it. So, what were you going to say? When we entered the shop, the witch and the guy from the first floor were already inside, Kai said coolly. Impossible, Desmond almost roared. We were on time. They couldn't have come before us unless. Desmond couldn't complete the sentence. Kai had already said his sentence for him. Unless they knew we were coming. How? Desmond whispered, but the words dared not come out. Only Captain knew of our plan, Kai snared. And Sonya. No, Desmond rejected it with all the force he could muster. Sonya would never do this. There you had it then, Kai shrugged. Kai let Desmond mull over things this time. This course of events made much more sense than Kai surviving all three contestants, including a witch as powerful as Desmond. Moreover, Kai was just a newbie. It wasn't a status high enough to strike a deal with the enemy. I will kill him, Desmond said, his teeth grinding almost in powder. Hidden from Desmond's burning, murderous gaze, Kai let out a demonic smirk. Chapter 8, Magical Acknowledgement and Beetle the Bard. Published by Scribble Hub. It was high noon, the sun enjoying the leisure of the cloudless sky. London streets were overcrowded by watchmen. Mixed among the watchmen were strange men, wearing stranger hats and holding wooden sticks. Rick and Peary's shop of 100 Wonders was the center of attention. The talk among the officials was that they had found 3 bodies there, all badly mangled. The work of a beast. A huge venomous boa constrictor, who had escaped the glass cage and had attacked the 3 thieves. Close to this shop was an ordinary hut. Inside, Arlen was sitting with a heavy frown on his face. Sonya and Shay were sitting near the columns of books, but it was Sonya whose face was blank. Another contestant had joined them in the vast hall. The contestant from the first floor, Simon. He was around the same age as Desmond but looked older. He was lean, but his back was slightly hunched. His face was full of freckles, and he only had one eye. The moment a rhythmic knock rattled the door, Simon's right eye was the first to react. Arlen was the second to jump up to his feet, his face gaining an ugly expression. Sonya had almost made a run for it if Arlen hadn't stopped her by the gesture of his hand. No one moves, Arlen commanded, taking out the wand. Simon, stand back. Simon was quick, his feet moving like a pheasant darting around. Arlen flicked the wand at the door, and it swung open with a bam. The two figures didn't linger outside more than they needed to. They were Kai and Desmond, each holding a broomstick. What have you two done? Arlen fumed, pointing the wand at them. Where were you, and what is this mess you have created? Captain, Kai addressed gently. We have no idea what you were talking about. Yes, Arlen, Desmond nodded, his eyes searching for Sonya. We just went in and out in a matter of moments, but then many official wizards began appearing around us so we had to hide for some time. None noticed the slight twitch of Desmond's left shoulder when he moved around. Arlen must have sensed all eyes staring at his pointed wand, feeling his anger, so he put it down. They found 3 people dead in the shop, Arlen said. The wizards and witches from the Wizards' Council are all over the place. Mr. Beetle is just on the verge of abandoning our service. If you two had come in time, then we would have left this cursed place by now. What? Desmond's jaw dropped, and he snapped his head towards Kai. 3 corpses? Kai's jaw was dropped too. His mouth was even wider than that of Desmond's. Side mission. Assist contestant Desmond in stealing a broomstick. Side mission status. Success. Side mission rewards. 75 mission credits. There was not much difference in the mission credits, despite the bloody events that took place at the shop, Kai noted. It became obvious to him that, once assigned, side missions didn't take into account what happened later. If it wasn't for the ambush, then the 75 mission credits for break-in and stealing broomsticks were reasonable. Arlen will kill us if he thinks his mission is a failure. Desmond's voice came from his side. How the hell did those 3 die there? The question had a puzzled tone, but Kai knew what Desmond was trying to imply. I don't know, Desmond, Kai shrugged. Maybe it is what they're saying. They got killed by a snake. This is a magical world. Who knows what truths lie under the guise of falseness? How can that be? Desmond pressed his brows. I could feel her power. She was stronger than me. If I didn't have my skill, you would have only found pieces of me in the alley. Then why is the Wizards' Council taking so much interest in it? Kai threw out a wild guess. Maybe the snake wasn't an ordinary creature. You mean? Desmond's eyes shone with understanding. It was a shop of 100 wonders, right? Kai said meaningfully. Who says magical creatures aren't wonders? Manipulating people with the subtlest hints and nudges was one of the strengths Kai had developed to survive in his previous life. Not to mention, Desmond wasn't the brightest mind out there, to begin with. For a brute, Desmond has learned to overcome his weakness by asking questions after questions, Kai reflected, seeing the big guy going quiet. Kai's gaze fell on the 3 brooms leaning against the wall. The girls had also completed their mission, securing a broomstick. Now, Sonya was on duty in the basement, and Shay was still buried in books. How can they be so magical? Kai asked, pointing at the broomsticks. They didn't even have stats over them. Haha, Desmond roared in a way unique to him. The presence of stats just means that an item can be taken outside the world and can be stored into inventory. It doesn't mean it isn't powerful. Some things aren't so clearly stated by the systems, so don't do anything stupid. Both went quiet then. The surroundings had become immensely tense at the sunset, blanketed by smoke in the approaching dusk. At midnight, they would leave this secured magical hut of theirs. They would leave London, flying on the brooms, but how many would reach Dufftown? Kai couldn't guess. But I know who will not be reaching for sure. Kai's eyes narrowed. Under Desmond's shocked gaze, Kai got up and neared Arlen. Captain, he towered over Arlen, who was sprawled over the long sofa like wooden bench. Arlen hadn't left this place since the last hour, and Desmond had told Kai he didn't like it, seeing Arlen so quiet. Kai had an inkling of what Arlen was thinking, but would he dare say it aloud here, when so many ears were listening? He shook his head inwardly. What is it? Arlen grumbled, without looking at Kai. I couldn't ride the broom, Kai said, remembering the shameful incident, so I was wondering if you could teach me magic. Teach you magic, you say, Arlen mumbled, scorning Kai's words openly. What is it, a vegetable? But I saw you teaching it to Shay, Kai said, pointing at the time an hour ago when Arlen had approached Shay to teach her about magic. You can sell vegetables to her, and not to me? A laugh escaped Desmond's mouth, and even Simon let out a chuckle. Shay held her head high to see what the ruckus was about, unaware that she was the cause. Arlen sat up. He looked at Kai with those blue eyes of his, menacing and full of rage and murder. Magic requires elementary magic aptitude. Do you have it? Arlen said, his tone full of mockery. Save your breath. I know you don't. Magic also requires a wand. Do you have it? Do you know the price I had to pay to have one of my own? Do you know it isn't even a real wand? Now that shocked Kai. And do you know? Arlen had stood up, looking down into Kai's eyes. Magic requires an acknowledgement from a true wizard or true witch from the random world. They must acknowledge that you have the destiny to be a wizard, that if not now, then one day you can become one. Arlen left the bed and walked off, leaving Kai drowned in his thoughts. None saw Kai deftly slipping a paper into Arlen's pockets as he walked away. You didn't know that, did you? Arlen was still shouting, laughing a low laugh of derision. Teach you magic, you said. Well, let's have it then. It just so happens that we have a true wizard among ourselves. Desmond stood up in shock. Arlen hadn't let the newbies even approach the direction till now. For the first time, he was walking towards it, the trapdoor of the basement. A tunnel brought Kai and Arlen in front of a metal door. There were no bolts outside, but it felt shut to Kai. Almost airtight for the better lack of words. Sonia was sitting on one side of the gate outside, reading a book, sitting over a stool. The tunnel was well lit for the purpose. Go up, Arlen commanded. Mr. Beetle doesn't like too many of us crowding him. Sonia gave Kai a rare smile and nodded at him before leaving the basement. When Arlen heard the clanking of the trapdoor, he looked at Kai. His hand went down to his coat's pocket, and he took out a rolled piece of parchment. And now, Arlen said, with a threatening tone, you will tell me what's the meaning of this. Arlen unrolled the flaky piece, letting out its content in open. Under the light of dozens of oil lamps, the single word written over it shimmered with a yellow-orange glow. That word was Confringo. 30 minutes later, the metal door opened up, its hinges creaking under its weight. Kai was standing behind Arlen, almost hiding under his figure. Whatever had happened in the last 30 minutes, it had left none of its traces on their faces. My lord, may I have some of your time? Arlen said, bowing a little. It's regarding one of my guards. Kai gawked at the room when Arlen had bowed. It was big for it to be called just a room, but smaller than the hall over the basement. There was a single large table in the middle, and it was conquered by hundreds and thousands of parchments. Empty ink bottles were scattered all over the floor, and quills were dancing like a many-colored peacock in the rain. Behind the table, on a chair, was an old man. He had a long, luxuriant beard. It disappeared under the table, like a water stream. Over his head was a pointy hat, and he was all garbed in a blue-black robe. His right hand was scribbling, snatching a dancing quill now and then leaving it to do work on its own. It was his left hand that interested Kai. Clutched tightly in the grasp of his left hand's fingers was a book. Its cover was deep dark, which made it lose itself in his robe's foldings. The old man had pressed the book tightly to his chest as if worrying anyone would come and might try to snatch it away. Come, come, an old and croaky voice replied. Shut the door, first, shut the door. Kai hastily entered the room, and the metal door returned to its post, cutting them off from the outside world. How are you faring, Mr. Beetle? Arlen asked, giving Kai a shock that he could even talk so pleasantly. What will you have for dinner? Nothing, nothing, Mr. Beetle said, shaking his long beard along with his head. When are we leaving? Midnight, my lord, Arlen said, with a sure voice. We are just waiting for the hubbub to die down a little. Hurry, hurry, you must hurry. Mr. Beetle abruptly stood up and started to look around. It's coming for me, I tell you. It's found me. He is mad, Kai thought, becoming sure of it. Arlen turned around and gave Kai a blank look. My lord, the guard I was talking about. Arlen brought Kai forward and presented him to Mr. Beetle. His name's Red. Can you help us find out if he has magical aptitude? Mr. Beetle finally noticed Kai, and his old face brightened up suddenly. Kai saw he wasn't as old as he looked, but he had a frail figure. His eyes were sunken deep in his skull. The pupils could have the color of obsidian once, but now they were dull black, gray, and bleak. Kai stepped towards the old man as the wizard came for him. Behind Kai, Arlen was flabbergasted, seeing the strangest event of his life. Beetle the Bard was a legendary character and he had never shown such interest in others. In a few steps, Kai found the old man standing in front of him. They were of the same height. Mr. Beetle would have longer if he were to straighten his back, Kai noticed. He was still thinking about what to say when the wizard lifted his right hand. Kai didn't move. Mr. Beetle put his hand on his face and caressed as he traced a finger towards his eyes. Fascinating, Mr. Beetle whispered, too indulged to say the words out loud. These eyes. Kai felt the coarseness of his hands on his face, ran down his neck, and then the hand reached down to his chest. There it stopped. The old wizard pressed his palm just over Kai's heart, a little to its right. A sudden shriek. Mr. Beetle jerked his hand away as if something had swatted it. The old man's face was already pale and dark before, but now it was aghast. A deep horror was in his eyes. Terror beyond death. Merlin's beard, the old man shouted, stumbling away from Kai. No, he shall not do magic. This is false. Yes, falseness beyond redemption. Kai had an ugly expression. He wanted to kill that stupid old fool. Where's my wand? Mr. Beetle asked, fumbling around his table. Where is it? Come, let's go, Arlen said, putting a hand on Kai's shoulder. We are done here. Kai silently turned around and walked off. As the metal door closed behind him, he put a hand on his chest. It was burning hot, whatever was in there. The hotness of rage and defiance. We will cover the missing 30 minutes soon enough in coming chapters. Chapter 9, Traitor, 1. Published by Scribble Hub. It's been over half an hour since Sonia's return. Desmond and Sonia were having a late evening tea with a few biscuits. Shay was sitting close to them, noting down something from dozens of books around her on a torn piece of parchment. Simon was having tea too, but he was far in a corner, lost in his thoughts. Others had soon found out that Simon wasn't much for a talk, and the way he looked at you with that one eye of his, it almost as if he was saying he knows what mischief you were up to. I am worried about the kid, Desmond admitted to Sonia, taking a light sip. I can't wait anymore. Desmond put the cup down abruptly, and he would have stood up if not for Sonia's hand on his. It was a light tap, but it could have been more than that. Desmond looked troubled, but ultimately gave up and slumped back in the chair, letting out a sigh. 2 minutes, and no more, he said. If they won't show up, we both are going in. Right then, the trapdoor opened and Arlen and Kai climbed up one after another. Desmond and Sonia shared a meaningful glance. Arlen was quick to deliver the good news to everyone the moment they had come back. An obvious ecstasy had lingered on his face when Arlen presented Kai to the others, proclaiming he might never use magic. Desmond walked to Kai. Cheer up, Red, he said, putting a hand over his shoulder. There are more magical worlds. This isn't the end. After an hour, they had a sumptuous dinner. Roast pork, bacon, roast potatoes and onions, bread, bowls of both thick and runny gravies and soups. They topped it with puddings and 3 fresh cakes. Even when he was little, Kai had a man's appetite. No amount of anger and disappointment was enough to prevent him from eating a bellyful meal. When it was just 2 hours to midnight, Arlen, for the first time, called all the Thunder faction for a meeting. The round table was surrounded by the 6 contestants. We will take 2 4-horse carriages to London's northern outskirts, Arlen said, pointing at the map. If it weren't for the incident related to the 3 dead bodies, then we could have used rooms from right here. Arlen glared at Desmond and Kai as if he had pinned the unfortunate event on their luck. Even with no incident, London was heavily monitored by the wizards of the Wizards' Council. There were eyes on London's skies all the time, but the incident had doubled that force. It will cost us an hour, Sonia observed. No matter how vacant the pathways will be, carriages are still only carriages. Desmond nodded in agreement. From there, we will make a beeline towards Peterborough, Arlen said, his wand drawing the line on the map. A clear yellow trail, then sidelining Lincoln City. We will not stop until we reach York. The wand had outlined a third of the distance between London and Dufftown by then. Shay, tell them, Arlen said. There was a big smile on his face. Shay was on Arlen's right. As Arlen called out to her, her face flushed. It took her a moment to step forward, trying not to look into others' eyes. There, Shay stuttered, but then she took a deep breath. There is a hidden mountainous region between York and Middlesbrough. If we avoid the region, then it will cost us another hour. There was no such region on the map. Desmond and Sonia showed their doubts outright with their pressed brows. Simon never took his eye off the map, as if it was revealing some deep secrets only to him. Shay has confirmed it, the captain of guard said, placing a rough sketch Shay had drawn over a parchment. The only issue is, it's dangerous. Such regions, generally, are home of magical beasts, and the Wizards' Council might have their officials posted there for surveillance. Haha, Desmond laughed. Then, isn't it better to just take the detour? Desmond is right, Captain, Sonia said sternly. So what if we lose more time? Our lives are more important. Arlen's smile crumpled, hearing their disagreement. Humph, I don't care about the dangers, he snorted. We will take the coastline up to the seaside towns near Edinburgh. The fools of order would think we will take the usual route over Edinburgh skies. But I have different plans. Desmond and Sonia gasped as they realized what Arlen was suggesting. Even Simon, the silent one, showed his interest by taking his eyes off the map. From the shores, we will go over the North Sea, Arlen said, his wand deviating from green inland to the blue corners of the map. We will keep the brooms low. With Simon among us, we will have an advantage if they were to follow us. And I will not waste a single second before reaching the destination. There was tension between Desmond, Sonia, and Arlen, but the captain had decided, and what he said made sense from a strategic point of view. There wasn't anything they could do about it. Don't worry, Simon hissed. You know, I am something of a magician myself. No one was fooled by his humble tone, especially not Kai. The man wasn't dangerous, otherwise, Kai's perception would have picked it up, but there was something off about him, Kai could tell. So that's it then, Arlen said, his wand disappearing with a shake of his hand. I am bringing Mr. Beetle up. Desmond and Sonia, you two go and make arrangements for the carriages. Shay, come with me, it's time you get your elementary magical aptitude. Simon, there might be some muggle watchmen patrolling around. Find what you can about the route we will take through carriages. That only left Kai. Arlen looked at him, smiling wickedly. Boy, the captain commanded. Go, warm some wine for us over the hearth. We all will share a drink before leaving. An hour later, the smell of spices hit Kai's nostrils. Simon had directed him a little before going out. Kai knew nothing about warming wines. He had drunk alcohol before, but never to savor its flavors. Shay must have got her elementary ability by now. The thought suddenly passed by Kai's mind. Kai didn't care. Shay had done nothing to him. Neither was she good to him, nor was she bad. Kai's morals were twisted beyond sense, but he wouldn't kill someone whose death wouldn't be rewarding for him. Power and revenge, Kai thought. They are the only reason for me to kill. The atmosphere made his mind wander. It was extremely quiet, just short of choking silence. The tiniest bubble popped over the calm layer of the wine into the pot, ruining the silence. Kai took off the pot and laid 7 mugs for each of his teammates, including Mr. Beetle. When he was done pouring the filtered warm wine in mugs, Kai stood up and turned his back to the main door. If anyone were to barge in, which was unlikely, they wouldn't know outright what he was doing. Kai took a deep breath, remembering the feeling he had experienced in the Shop of Wonders in the basement after being virtually kicked out by the wizard. The hotness, the twists and turns, the rage and defiance. Those feelings overtook Kai, and he touched his chest with his left hand. Come forth, Kai willed, almost in a trance. Blue-tailed boa constrictor. His skin became hot suddenly, his blood boiling within him. There was a touch of redness on his face, and swirls of hot red air rose all around him. From afar, Kai's figure seemed to wave, like the space above fire. His eyes turned into narrow slits. A hiss resounded in Kai's mind, and an extremely lifelike tattoo of a snake appeared on his right arm. It coiled around there, its mouth reaching Kai's elbow, and its deep blue tail ending on the nail of his middle finger. Almost violet, Kai noticed. The color of poison. Then he concentrated on his glitch, Blood Devour. It had gone to hibernation, but the blood essence it had devoured could be used whenever he wanted. The abilities and the skills were always there with him, for him to be used, for him to kill. Activating skill Light Neurotoxin. Time limit, 30 seconds. Skill, Light Neurotoxin. Grade, E. Specification, a toxin found in a rare species of boa constrictors. It needs to be injected into the prey's body for it to be at its deadliest potency. The moment it leaves the serpent's fangs, it becomes colorless, highly weakening and delaying its effects. Requirement, MP 10 points and HP 5 points, per drop. Attributes, not applicable. Effect, 1 drop of light neurotoxin is enough to kill an average adult contestant in 30 minutes, given the absence of any antivenom and outside interference. The effects vary in potency as the contestant's stats deviate from average. At its weakest, it can induce dizziness, confusion, hallucination, and rarely, damage motor function. Kai loved it. The light neurotoxin was nothing compared to the body-mind melding poison he could use in his previous life. A tenth of a drop of that poison was enough to kill hundreds of ordinary people instantly. What Kai admired about light neurotoxin, given its lowest grade, was the weakened and delayed effect. It was a weak point at a glance, not for those who know how to use it, Kai told himself. Suddenly, his colored nail extended, turning into a pointy needle. The snake tattoo felt wriggling on his arm, slithering on his fiery skin. An abrupt pain shot through Kai's hand as if someone was sucking out his blood. His eyes blurred for a moment and his MP and HP both decreased simultaneously. A violet drop of death shimmered against the fire in the hearth, like a polished gem. Kai held his nail over one mug and dropped it, but even before the drop could make a splash into the wine, it turned colorless. Drip. Kai used the skill again. One more drop in a different mug, and he was done. The tattoo vanished, and then the hotness ran off. His eyes returned to their original shapes, leaving him drunk on the power he had just felt. So this is an instantaneous triggered skill. Kai remembered what Desmond had told him about the skills. There is no official division, but skills can be of 2 types, Desmond had told Kai. Driven skills need a continuous supply of MP, SP, or HP. As long as you can supply them, the skill will remain in effect, unless it has more constraints. Triggered skills are again subdivided into 2 types. Charge triggered, where you need to charge the skills with MP or SP or even HP sometimes before unleashing them. The more you charge them, the more powerful they will be. The other is instantaneous triggered. These skills devour a certain number of points the moment you unleash them, making them the quickest and the deadliest too. Then there were abilities. They are like a craft, Desmond had added. You practice them, learn them, and try to become proficient in them, hence the word proficiency. To upgrade them, you need insights and constant improvement. They are difficult to get, very difficult, and even monstrous to upgrade. They have 3 levels, elementary, advanced, and master. Click. The trapdoor opened on Kai's left, bringing him out of his reverie. Arlen, a beaming Shay, and Mr. Beetle walked out one after the other. The main door played a rhythmic knock, making Arlen swish his wand at it. Desmond and Sonia walked in, and 2 carriages could be seen behind them. Before the door could close as they walked in, Simon too appeared from the other side. In a few minutes, as Simon transferred the details he had found out, Kai brought the tray of mugs to them. Mr. Beetle's pointy hat had disappeared, and his face was hidden under the shadow of a hood. But Kai could tell it was him from the constant murmurs surrounding him, and the tightly clutched book. If it isn't to my taste, boy, Arlen said, looking at Kai. You will bathe in this very wine tonight. Oh, it is to your taste, Kai laughed inwardly. Kai handed over a mug one by one to them. Arlen reluctantly nodded, tasting the wine, and Desmond and Sonia laughed. Shay took a small sip, and Mr. Beetle was drinking it like water. Only Simon waited longer than others, and then he too drank a mouthful, taking in the last sniff. Kai was the first to drink the wine, but the taste at the tip of his tongue was of something else. It was the taste of victory. Chapter 10, Traitor, 2. Published by Scribble Hub. He fears me, Desmond said, his eyes glaring at Arlen's back. That's why he doesn't want me to be with him in the same carriage. Kai mutely listened, his face flushed from all the wine they had drunk. Arlen had divided them into 2 groups. Arlen, Shay, and Sonia would guard Mr. Beetle in one carriage. On the other, Desmond, Simon, and Kai would have all the brooms. Humph, Desmond snorted. We are doing it, before taking the broomsticks to the air. What? Kai spat. This wasn't the plan. We agreed to blackmail Arlen and get some mission credits and items. That was then, this is now, Desmond said, his eyes blazing red. He is a wizard, Kai said sharply. No kind of ambush guarantees our victory. Don't forget my skill, minor soul shaker, Desmond said. It's a charge-triggered skill. But he is the captain of guard. Your mission has nothing to do with what happens to Arlen, or who the captain of guard is. Kai's eyes narrowed at Desmond's reply. You want me to hold back Simon, Kai said, guessing as much. I am not too sure about it. You are worthy enough, Desmond said, with an iron certainty. If you can escape the full might of a second floor's contestant, then you can easily resist a weaker opponent for some time, can't you? He had Kai then. If Kai were to say no, then Desmond would surely get to know Kai was lying about the shop's incident. So Kai nodded. He had to. Boom. 45 minutes into the journey, a sudden jerk jolted Kai, Desmond, and Simon. The horses seemed to have gone berserk. From afar, the sound of a boom came to their ears. But it was the ear-piercing voice that truly shook them up. Sonia. Desmond jumped out, kicking the carriage door open. Kai followed Desmond, with Simon behind him. Some dozens of meters away, Arlen was clutching his head. Blood was running down through his hand, dripping over the ground like a faulty tap. Half of his face was bloody, and in his right hand was the wand. Its tip pointed at the figure standing against him. Sonia was standing tall there. Her back was to the carriage, from which Shay's face could be seen, horrified beyond doubt. There were 2 black daggers in Sonia's hands, and a strip of paper was attached to their ends. Explosive kunais, Simon exclaimed. Red, help me, throw the water can at the captain. Simon dashed towards Arlen, but Kai was upon him before that. He slid under him, tripping the one-eyed man, and before he knew what was happening, a knife was at Simon's throat. Of course, Kai never remained weaponless for long. What's the meaning of this? Simon asked, a terror on his face. Desmond, what have you done? Arlen and Sonia didn't look away from each other. Sonia's hands lifted, and she was just about to throw the kunais when a burst of mana came out of Arlen. Expelliarmus. A brilliant flash of scarlet light came out of the wand, almost blinding Kai. In the next moment, the 2 kunais were flying high in the air, and Sonia's hands got thrown outwards like dead branches. Suddenly, Desmond's eyes lit up with the brightest gold color. Ha ha ha, Arlen laughed madly. You two, worms, do you think you two can take me on by just catching me off guard? You think I only know the disarming charm? Fools. You are right, they are. Kai's gaze spun towards the darkness beyond the first carriage. The moonlight wasn't as clear as it was yesterday, but he could see the figure. It walked towards them, juggling 3 explosive kunais in its hands. You've lost my gifts, Sonia, the man said. Arlen was shocked beyond belief. His hands were trembling in rage and a stream of fresh blood escaped out of the wound on his head. Traitors, he muttered. You fucking traitors. Kai saw a blurry hint of himself embedded in Arlen's lone figure. In his previous life, he too had gone through the same emotions. Desmond, Kai called out. Who is he? Ha ha. Desmond laughed, the terrifying gold in his eyes on the brink of bursting out. He is a friend. You just keep Simon in check. Or I will suffer the same fate as Arlen's. Kai knew what Desmond was implying. Now we aren't just 2, Sonia said, taking a step towards Arlen. The order's contestant was the strongest of the 3. Sonia had already injured Arlen and had made him use a skill. Desmond could fire the minor soul shaker anytime. If not for a miracle, Arlen was a man destined to die. If. A few hours before. And now, Arlen said, with a threatening tone, you will tell me what's the meaning of this. In the basement, Arlen unrolled the flaky piece, letting out its content in open. Under the light of dozens of oil lamps, the single word written over it shimmered with a yellow-orange glow. That word was. Confringo. It is what it is, Kai shrugged. Don't play games with me, boy, Arlen fumed. His blue eyes had almost become black, darkened by the abundant lamplight behind him. It is a powerful spell. Who told you about it? No one told me, Captain, Kai said. He snatched the paper, tore it, and threw it into a lamp. The parchment became ash in no seconds. It was used against me. Ha ha, Arlen let out a roaring laugh, but never took his eyes off Kai. Used against you, you say. Am I talking to a ghost, then? He doesn't think I can survive, Kai thought. And why should he? I would be dead if it wasn't for my glitch. A witch from the order used the skill, Kai said. A long sword appeared in his hands, not before the appearance of the wand in Arlen's hands. The captain of guard took a step back, like a beast about to lunge on its prey. Kai ignored him. There were 2 others with her. I got this from the contestant of the first floor after killing him. You killed the first floor's contestant? Arlen asked, his voice full of doubts. But the longsword was proof even he couldn't deny. The longsword disappeared back to his inventory and Kai took a seat on the empty stool Sonia had left behind. You see, Captain, I have 2 elementary abilities, Kai admitted. It must have shocked Arlen because the man's mouth opened to say something, but no words came out. He wasn't as strong as Simon, I can tell, but there was a newbie with him. Then Kai briefly told him all about the ambush. When the witch came downstairs, she was already injured, Kai said, adding some lies. If I wasn't already running for the door, the spell could have hit me. Let's cut to the chase, Captain. You already know what I am trying to say. Desmond, Arlen gritted out. Yes, Kai nodded, but he isn't the mastermind. That shocked Arlen. What do you mean? Sonia is the one who had set up that meeting, Kai said. But something went wrong between that witch and Desmond. Something, I don't know. What if it was I who had contacted the order's contestants? Arlen asked, his shoulders relaxing for the first time. I asked myself that, Kai said. After killing me and Desmond, you would have to kill Sonia too. You know it. It would have cost you 2 powerful guards and a meat shield. And for what? I refuse to believe there isn't a contestant of your caliber among the enemies. Why would he or she give up on the mission for just the 3 of us? No, Captain, you couldn't have been in cahoots with the enemy. Because you had nothing to gain, and everything to lose. Kai's reasoning was so flawless that even Arlen hadn't thought from this angle. An awkward silence took over their conversation then. Why are you telling me all this? Arlen asked warily. Desmond and Sonia's plan is flawless. Unlike you, they both have everything to gain and nothing to lose, Kai said. I can only guess, but I believe it was Sonia who meant to go with me to the shop. But you paired her with Shay, and whoever newbie had gone to the shop was destined to be sacrificed as a token of Sonia's goodwill. But you would have gone mad if Shay had gone missing, so Desmond used me. If I am being honest, I feel a little offended. Humph, Arlen snorted at the mention of Shay, but he didn't deny it was truly so. It still doesn't explain why you were helping me. You could have easily helped Desmond and Sonia too. If I had helped them, Kai said, shrugging, what would I have got in return? With them I have nothing to lose and nothing to gain, and I don't like it one bit, not at all, thank you very much. Arlen and Kai looked into each other's eyes. Good thing I still have your proof letter, Arlen said, at last. Otherwise, I would have thought you weren't a newbie. Go on, tell me what you want, then. A side mission, all kills and loot, Kai listed. Loot? Kai replied with an evil grin on his face. Presently, Sonia's stride turned into a dash, but she hadn't even taken the 3rd step when she stumbled, falling on the ground, rolling and tumbling. The gold in Desmond's eyes also dimmed when his knees buckled and he shook his head as if he couldn't see clearly anymore. What's happening? The order's contestant asked, taking a step back. What magic is this? Arlen had already made a run towards him. My head, Sonia said, struggling to even raise her hands. The brilliant gold in Desmond's eyes became sick yellow. He had managed to remain standing, but his knees were still shaking as if they were made of paper. Then terror struck Desmond as he snapped his head towards Kai. But Kai wasn't there anymore, nor was Simon. Power, Kai hissed, standing behind Desmond, in his shadow. It had become enough a reason for me to betray. A scalding hot air blurred Kai's figure. His skin had a hot pinkish color, and his eyes were two narrow slits. Elementary snake instinct. Some betrayals bring more power than others, Kai hissed, a longsword appearing in his hand. And some powers are sweeter than others. Kai hacked the longsword at Desmond's neck. Blood showered, a deep gash appearing at Desmond's neck. The power behind the slash wasn't enough to behead him. Desmond fell, his hands motionless, and his eyes lost and confused. Kai brought down the longsword again, blood covering his body. The small red dots became a brilliant work of art on his handsome face. The longsword struck again. Desmond's head separated from his body, the yellow in his open eyes still disappearing. You have killed one chaos contestant. But, Kai mumbled, remembering the spear-wielded black-eyed man. Quote ellipsis, nothing is as sweet as a well-planned revenge. Congratulations contestant Kai Stormborn. You have unlocked a title. Title, traitor. Specification, kill 10 chaos contestants collectively. The contestant must be from the same or higher floor than yours. Status, 2/10. Effect, correspondence +2, worth -5. Note, only one title can be equipped at a time. From the massive 5 points drop in worth, one could tell that killing the contestants of same system was heavily frowned upon, even in the eyes of chaos and order. Kai, though, could afford it easily. Boom. From the other side, a booming sound followed a scarlet flash. Number oh, a man's scream. Kai stepped toward Sonia, ignoring Arlen's fight. Desmond's head, after rolling down the road, had stopped just under Sonia's eyes. There was a twitch in her body, but she couldn't move. Her eyes were red, and tears were rolling out. How? A mere whisper came out of her mouth. Poison. Kai told her what he had told Arlen. It was impossible for you two to not take advantage of this chance. Arlen certainly couldn't fight with more than 2 contestants of your level. So I helped him. Desmond didn't know, but I had taken a potion out of the shop's shelf. This was the same lie he had told Arlen, too. Otherwise, he had no justification for the poison. It isn't something great, Kai continued. Its effects are delayed and weak, just enough for you two to lose your bearings and give me and Arlen a chance. How? Same question, different meaning. How did you never get to feel the danger? Kai completed her question. I asked myself what causes dizziness, confusion, and weakness, but nobody minds it one bit. Wine. A lot of wine. You never questioned yourself why Arlen sent Simon for surveillance when it is clear I who has the greatest charisma. The question must have struck her hard. Kai had a greater chance to get information out of characters than Simon. Yet, none thought about it, because everyone knew Arlen hated Kai. After their return from the basement, everything was a ruse. The jests, the mockery, and the obvious expressions. Kai and Arlen didn't even need to plan for it. They both were natural, as Kai had found out. Kai caressed Sonia's hair. They were smooth, roughened from the wind, but smooth. So, he had to grip them tightly. Kai banged her head right on top of Desmond's legacy. Do you know why this is happening? Kai asked. Another bang. You can still think, right? Kai whispered. A crunch. You should know, shouldn't you? For Desmond's sake, Kai suggested. Something broke and fell off Sonia's face. Okay, Kai gave up. It was her teeth. Pawn, Kai sighed. The bangs had turned into muzzled squishes. You shouldn't have. Kai had to catch his breath. She was already dead. You shouldn't have used me as a pawn. You have killed one chaos contestant. Side mission. Assist Thunder Faction's Captain of Guard in killing the traitors. Side mission status, success. Side mission rewards, 100 mission credits. Chapter 11, Fighting Magical Beasts, Hippogriffs, 1. Published by Scribble Hub. Kai looked back. In the carriage, Shay's face was so low that only the top of her head was visible. Behind her was Simon, whom Arlen had already won over before starting the journey. Now, the one-eyed man was smiling at him creepily. Arlen walked up to Kai, dragging the person and ignoring the bloody mess Red had caused. The man, who had a long nose and broken lips, shuddered seeing Sonia's state. One of his legs was twisted, and his hands were bleeding. No, the man cried. Kill me, you kill me first. Be quick about it, Arlen said, throwing the man at Kai's feet. The officials will come soon. We should have already gone by now. Kai took out the longsword and buried it in the man's heart. A jerk and twist of the hilt did the rest. You have killed one order's contestant. Your title status is updated. Title, murderer. Specification, kill 10 contestants in a single random world. The contestants must be from the same or higher floor than yours. Status, 6/10. Effect, perception +2, worth +1. A treasure chest hologram appeared over the body just like the witch's, followed by the same notification. Kai had already played it safe last time. As he wanted himself to be familiar with the process, he opted for the random item. A hologram key appeared out of nowhere. With a click, it opened the treasure chest, and then both the treasure chest and the key vanished. Kai waited for a few seconds, and then his face became ugly. Nothing, motherf. It's already in your inventory. Simon approached Kai, crouched and began examining Sonia's face. What a waste. Anyway, the systems are fair like that. Your loot, your choice. No one can know what you obtained that way. With a thought, Kai checked his inventory, and, sure enough, there was an explosive kunai within it. You must have got those explosive kunais, Simon said, his single eye peering into Kai. That man had many, so you must have got like 3 to 5 of them, right? Kai only smiled in return. The number of curses he had said in mind was a different matter. What are you two doing? Arlen asked, holding the 3 brooms. Simon, go bring Mr. Beetle. Captain, Kai said, leave 1 broom here. When officials would come, they would think these 3 had been fighting over the broom. Also, unlike this order's contestant, Desmond and Sonia's bodies match the bodies from the shop. They would have to relate the 2 events. It should give us some headway. Arlen's mind shook. Simon, who was walking away, suddenly paused. He turned around and planted his one eye on Kai. And I thought you were just crazy, butchering them like that. Kai shrugged. Doing extensive calculations before conducting experiments was as deep a part of his life as killing. Never had he taken a life, or butchered someone, without a purpose behind it. So why must he explain himself to anyone now? Arlen ditched 1 broomstick between the corpses. Mr. Beetle will sit between us on a single broom, he said. Simon and Shay will ride on the other. Shay was standing as far from Kai as it was possible. Arlen didn't even hide how much this had pleased him. The smile on his face never vanished, even after standing over the broom. Are you ready? Arlen asked, but it wasn't much of a question. A sudden gust hit Kai's face, and they were already flying. 150 minutes later. What happened there? A voice asked, bringing Kai's wandering thoughts to reality. What happened there? Tell me. They were flying over the lowest layer of clouds, if they had the luxury of finding them on their route. Simon and Shay, riding just behind their broom, weren't half as good as Arlen in controlling the broomstick. They were only 2, but even then, it had become hard for them to keep up. Simon again smiled at him when Kai looked behind. Why does he smile so much? Kai asked himself, rubbing his misty eyes because of the wind. It was chilly and painful, but they were thankful that they hadn't come to face any thunderstorm. In front of them now towered high and low hills, undulating like sand mounds of the desert. Just more colorful. Kai could feel a hint of mana around him. Whatever lay ahead was covered for ordinary eyes to see. Arlen stirred the broomstick into the unseen mana layer. The moment they entered, the moonlight seemed to intensify. The hills become mountains, and the lands become valleys. A thick smell of danger challenged Kai's nostrils. Arlen must have sensed it too. He brought the broomstick as high as he could go. Oh, Mr. Beetle, stuffed between Kai and Arlen, exclaimed. Why have you come here? Their hearts gave out on the spot. Arlen's face had become like a rotten onion. My lord, he asked, do you know where are we? The 4 contestants waited with bated breath. The wizard, meanwhile, gave his long beard 2 powerful strokes. Yes, Mr. Beetle mumbled. I remember. Where? The contestants asked simultaneously. The hidden moor hills, the breeding grounds of the hippogriffs. It was obvious that the information Shay had collected from the books wasn't complete. When Kai looked over in her direction, she was already crying. Going back wasn't an option, either. It would cost them double the amount. Moreover, if someone was monitoring the grounds, then it was easier to pick up small disturbances in the magical field surrounding the hills that happened twice at the same place and around the same time. How much time would it take to cross it? Arlen shouted over the wind. At our fastest, Shay thought, rubbing her eyes. We will be out of its boundaries in 12 to 15 minutes. Simon, Arlen gave the one-eyed man a look. If we get separated, you know what to do. Simon nodded. Let's go then, Arlen shouted. And the wind stirred. The sudden acceleration made Kai almost lose his grip on the staff. The wind went into his mouth, blasting his cheeks. Everything blurred around him, and it felt like someone was pulling his long hair from behind. Arlen was losing height as the broomstick became faster. The lower they went, the faster it became. Cry. Damn it, Arlen cursed, blabbering whatever was coming to his mind. These broomsticks had no variable function. They couldn't add their mana to it to make it fly faster. The advantage? It didn't need a single MP to maintain its higher speed. Mr. Beetle had become a round ball between them, tucking in his hands and head. Cry. It fell close, almost on their back. Kai spun his head backward, his eyes moving up. There it was. A hippogriff. The moonlight failed to hide the color of its feathers, deep marbled brown, and patches of white and black on the belly. It had the body, hind legs, and tail of a horse, but the front legs, wings, and head of an eagle, with cruel, steel-colored beak and large, brilliantly orange eyes. The talons on its front legs were half a foot long and deadly looking. It cried again, flapping its mighty wings, a loud piping call, waking the entire forest from its deep slumber. Captain, Kai shouted at the top of his lungs. It's coming. The hippogriff dived and, in an instant, it was upon them. Arlen jolted the broomstick, spinning it completely like a screw, making the magical beast miss its target. The beast let out a deafening cry. When the broomstick returned to its normal state, Mr. Beetle's head came out like a turtle and he peered at the beast. It made a round turn and was flying up, gaining distance with every flap of its wings. Captain, Kai said, the broomstick gaining speed, but not fast enough. Can we store corpses of the magical beasts in our inventory? Of course, why not? Arlen replied, not thinking about what he was saying, but then it must have struck him like a bolt of lightning, for he thundered like never before. Red, have you gone insane? The broomstick carried Arlen's anger like a current. You just have to swoop down and catch me from falling, Kai shouted back, ignoring everything else. I can take care of the rest. But Arlen was having none of it. The broomstick hadn't stopped its crazed rush. 8 more minutes, and they would be out of these hills. No, Arlen roared, if you want to die so badly, then jump off. I don't care, just don't expect me to come for you. 1 drop of potion, Kai said, smiling slyly, for you to catch me after I am done with it. Arlen had gone so silent, tasting those words, that they could hear Mr. Beetle's snores then. The wizard had dozed off, feeling pleasingly warm between Kai and Arlen. 10, Arlen finally said. I want 10. 1, Kai feigned reluctance. I only have 3 of them left. Then give me all of them, Arlen said. Deal, Kai said, fearing Arlen would realize what was going on. Kai's fear was genuine. Arlen's wind-battered face became as ugly as a hag when he found out Kai had ripped him off. Before he could cancel the deal, though, the broom suddenly became light. Kai had already jumped off. Hands and legs outstretched and bent, Kai looked at the magical beast rushing towards him. It wasn't as fast as its dive from above, but it was gaining speed. Whenever it flapped, it generated a tremendous force, blasting away the surrounding wind. Sound seemed to vanish then. Kai knew he would have to survive that massive bite first, as the creature would lunge at him with both its beak and huge talons. There was no other way. Arlen would have never agreed to bring Broomstick near the beast, not when Mr. Beetle was with him. Come forth, Kai called out. The blue-tailed boa constrictor reappeared on his arm. The wind blew away the rising hot air around Kai instantly. 100 meters. 40 meters. 10. Just when Kai saw murder and rage written in the magical beast's eyes, his eyes narrowed, becoming slits instantly. Elementary snake instinct. The beast cried a call of fury, a last flap of the wings, and it snapped its beak at Kai's reddish figure. Its talons seemed to replace the world, coming from left and right. There was no escaping it now. The snake slithered then. Like a rope bending upon being punched, Kai's spine bent as he twisted himself. A talon ripped his chest, taking away a big piece of flesh, but the rest of his body slid down as if he was slippering on oiled steel. Elementary snake instinct. Proficiency 13%, plus 3%. Elementary slither footsteps. Proficiency 45%, plus 5%. Kai hit its feathered head with a thud, and as he tumbled down, he also looked into its eyes. Round and big, red veins surrounding its orange pupils like a web. Then Kai was on its back. His hands caught the feathers, gripping them like his life was depending on them. He saw the stats hovering over the beast then. Magical beast, hippogriff. Grade, E+. Type, steel, flying. HP, 140. MP, 50. SP, 30. Attributes. Strength, 16. Agility, 18. Stamina, 14. Perception, 17. Intelligence, 5. Breath, 3. Abilities. 1. Advanced flying maneuver. 2. Elementary farsight. Skills. 1. Talon prison, grade E+. 2. Griffin bite, grade E. The hippogriff let out a cry and its rage doubled, being mocked by a puny target. It thrashed its wings, rolling and maneuvering in the air, trying to throw Kai off its back. But Kai's grip only tightened with passing seconds. Cry. This wasn't a cry of challenge, Kai observed. It's calling for others. The entire hills woke up. Hundreds, thousands, or maybe even more animals cried. Calls were being passed and the hidden moor hills became a death zone suddenly. A red-black mass rose from behind many hills like a black sun. Kai saw them, and they were coming. Scores of hippogriffs, crying out loud, the sound of their flapping wings tearing through the night. Time was running out. Chapter 12. Fighting Magical Beasts, Hippogriffs, 2. Published by Scribble Hub. A deadly feeling rose in Kai's heart, the sense of urgency shooting through the roof. Even if the Lonsword could have made any difference, he couldn't use it. Not when lifting one finger would make him lose his grip over its hippogriff's feathers. But there was one thing which neither needed him to let go of his grip nor consider the beast's outrageous stats that made the Lonsword useless. Poison. The beast must have sensed the hotness on its back, for it looked back towards Kai with its orange pupils. It saw 2 shimmering gold and silver slits looking back, the moonlight playing games of myriad colors. Activating skill light neurotoxin. Time limit, 30 seconds. Kai's middle finger curled, pressing into the leathery flesh of the beast. The toxin needed to be injected into the prey's body for it to be at its deadliest potency. Like a syringe, the violet-colored nail extended, entering the beast's flesh with almost no resistance. What happened next was instantaneous. Kai's face paled. The beast turned around but its wings had become lifeless. Its mouth parted to cry, but no sound came out. Its legs, donning the steel-like talons, dangled motionlessly. 5 drops of light neurotoxin, at its maximum potency, brought a result Kai couldn't have hoped for. In the first few seconds, the beast became a statue, and when it had lost half the height, it was a corpse. Kai's mind was numb, vision abandoning him as he saw his HP and MP points reducing to a dangerous level. The demon wasn't a stranger to this condition of his body. In his previous life, he had almost constantly remained half dead. So, even though he wasn't in a state of doing anything else, he still took out the Lonsword. Now that the magical beast was dead, Kai had no fear of losing his grip. Slithering around the magical beast as they fell, Kai hacked with all his might at the hippogriff's front legs many times as if he was cutting down huge trees. Then, as the legs separated the body with a blood squelch, Kai stored them into his inventory. Almost at the same time, Arlen grabbed him from behind and threw him on the broomstick. Mr. Beetle wasn't with him anymore. Arlen turned around and gave Kai a look, his face as emotionless as a stone. The stone cracked then. Kai and Arlen shared a devious smile. That better be worth it, Red, Arlen said, the thrilling smile still lingering on his lips. That better be worth it. Cry. Kai didn't want to, but he did. He turned his head to look at the death's hand. A great herd of hippogriffs was swarming towards them. The depressions within the swarm made it look like thin long fingers, uncurling, and reaching out for the two of them. Kai could see their talons. The way they reflected light, he felt as if they were real steel. Their wingspan seemed to have no end and their numbers blanketed the moon and stars, moonlight struggling to seep from the gaps between their feathers. Fuck, Kai cursed. That's all he could do for now. When he looked away from the sight, he finally gave some attention to the dull gray notification. Congratulations contestant Kai Stormborn. You have unlocked a title. Title, Poacher. Specification, kill 10 magical beasts collectively. The magical beast's grade must be equal to or higher than contestant's equivalent floor number. Status, 1/10. Effect, agility +1, perception +1, charisma -2. Note, only one title can be equipped at a time. You can never have too much of perception, Kai told himself. It took him time, but now he was understanding which stats mattered more than others. Cry. This was almost in his ears. Kai looked over his shoulder. There it was, the fastest of the flock. He could only see its talons first, black, and as cold as frozen steel. I can't survive this one, Kai reflected. The magical beast was gaining distance, its wings appearing and disappearing with every flap. Kai had to do something, and he had to do it now. He traced his inventory and took out the newest item. The black blade shimmered under the little moonlight falling over it. It was sharper than his longsword. The strip of paper attached to it had strange diagrams. Kai didn't understand any of it. But this was item. Items had stats. Item, explosive kunai. Grade, common. Specification, explosive kunai of a rogue ninja. Requirement, perception 11, breath 5. Attributes, base damage 20 points, maximum 60 points. Skill, condensed explosion. Skill effect. 1. Consume SP and detonate in target's proximity. 2. Explosion's intensity depends on SP supplied. And 3. Plus 10 points to base damage with every 10 SP supplied. Quality, 80%. If I had more of these, Kai shuddered, thinking about the damage he could do. Cry. The cry was almost a challenge. Kai found the mighty beast just behind him, eyeing him with its deadly red pupils. One more flap and it would use its talon prison skill, Kai knew. Kai brought his legs up and sat on the broomstick with his back touching Arlen's back. What are you waiting for? Arlen asked, shouting out his lungs. Throw it. A heavy, nauseating feeling welled up inside Kai. The SP bar dropped. Now, he was truly dying. His HP was low, MP was dwindling, and SP was almost there and not there. A sudden spark appeared on the kunai's paper strip, and it caught fire. This, Kai knew he must throw the kunai then, but the moment he aimed at the magical beast, it lost height. Kai suddenly aimed low, but then it went sideways. No matter what Kai did, the magical beast never stayed in one place. The paper strip was half burned. Oh, for fuck's sake, Arlen shouted, his voice full of anger. He shoved Kai sideways, and the wand appeared in his hand. A powerful burst of mana surrounded the broomstick suddenly. Kai's ears rumbled when Arlen shouted out the incantation. Petrificus totalis. Something flashed by Kai's sight. Like an unseen intention, it rushed out of Arlen's wand and hit the swift magical beast. For a moment, a tiny instant, Kai felt as if the enormous bird had become stone. Now, Arlen roared. The beast fell, but its petrified wings had almost come back to life. The bird was so close to them that Kai could see its eyes. They were moving up and down. Kai shivered. It was now or never. The knife flew through the air like a missile. 3 more adult hippogriffs had caught up with them by then. Just as they were passing by the petrified magical beast, the kunai exploded. Boom. The shockwave hit Kai's face almost instantly. He saw 2 of the magical beasts falling down, rolling round and round. Their feathers were on fire, and loud cries were escaping their mouths. They aren't dead, Kai thought, noticing the absence of notification. But they are only 2. Defying logic, 2 of the 4 blasted beasts flew through the fire globe in the air. In the moonlight, Kai could see their brown feathers were covered in blood. Just behind them followed a great host of hippogriffs. The fiery globe of explosion failed to stop even a single one. How long, Arlen? Kai asked. How much longer? 2 minutes. That's all Kai heard. Somehow, that was enough. We won't make it, Kai told himself. Not in 2 minutes. More and more magical beasts were coming from around them. Come then, Kai said, but it was not the words that came out. It was the longsword. It only gave him a boost of 1 in strength, and somehow, Kai squeezed a drop of courage out of it too. Come, Kai said, pointing the longsword at the hippogriffs. The beasts let out a cry and then shut their mouths, raising their talons to use the skill together. Come. Kai smiled, feeling the world compressing around him. And suddenly, the compression disappeared as if it was just imagination. Kai saw the strangest beautiful sight then. Hundreds of magical beasts were pounding on an unseen wall like darts. Something was keeping them off from crossing that boundary in space. Kai twisted his neck and looked back, and found Arlen looking right at him. The broomstick had almost slowed down, and the captain was smiling, laughing, his blue eyes shimmering with unparalleled delight. You lied about 2 minutes? Kai asked. Now, that's truly worth it, Arlen said, pointing at Kai's mortified expression. Next time, think twice before ripping me off, boy. Kai would never give this blue-eyed bastard the satisfaction of making a fool of him. He, too, let out a foolish and sly grin, sending the longsword back into the inventory. Oh, it was worth it, right? Kai playfully said, turning around and sitting properly. You don't need the poison drops then? Humph, Arlen snorted, but the victorious smile on his face didn't vanish. You better sit tight, Red. I would not come for you this time if you fell. They had lit a small fire when Kai and Arlen touched the ground. Kai saw Simon pulling a few rope twigs out of the broomstick. Shay was tending to the fire, adding lean, dry wooden sticks now and then. Mr. Beetle had a thick book in his right hand, and the stray tongues of fire were making the illustrations wave. Kai sat down, leaning against a rock when Arlen brought a plate of meat and eggs to him. Only then Kai realized how hungry he was. Eat, Arlen said, placing the plate in front of him. Your little adventure has cost us 30 minutes, boy, and I would like to have my drops first before continuing the journey. A vial appeared in Arlen's hands. He threw it at Kai, who caught it midair and saw the stats hovering above it. Item, storage vial. Grade, not applicable. Specification, capacity 50 milliliters. Requirement, miscellaneous rent box. Attributes, can easily store most liquids, solids, not exceeding capacity, and living organisms. Skill, not applicable. Effect, preserve freshness, prevent aging. Quality, 100%. Kai put the drops in it and returned the vial. Miscellaneous, Ren, box, he asked, immediately stuffing his mouth with food. If it weren't for Mr. Beetle's unexpected bowel movements, they would have already gone by now. There are many things in the random worlds that can't be outrightly stored in inventory, Arlen told him. Like a herb which isn't an item, so you can use a vial to store it in the inventory. Before teleportation to the random worlds, you can rent it through the system using mission credits. Without the MRB, you cannot bring non-item things into the random worlds. Like food, clothes, and books. They all need to be in the box for them to get teleported along with you. Simon joined them. It will block a fixed volume of your inventory, he said. You cannot use that space then, even if the box has nothing in it. Of course, there are things in the random worlds without stats, but you still can't store them in the MRB. Kai nodded. Then he saw Mr. Beetle pulling up his pants with one hand and clutching the book with another. After they were done with food, Shay brought a kettle and poured them a last cup of herbal tea. When she neared Kai, a faint blush came to her face. Shay had also brought a few books with her, and among them was a book with a hard black cover. Kai had taken a book with a hard black cover from Shay's personal collection for a light reading. Captain, you revealed the plan to Desmond and Sonia, Kai said, closing the book. They would have already told Order's contestant of it before coming back with carriages. Was that your intention all along? Yes, Arlen answered, taking his eyes off the wizard. Better to fight on the grounds of our choice than run into an ambush elsewhere. Arlen didn't wait for any longer after the brief tea session. After a few hours, Kai smelled tea salt in the air. The stars had all but gone, leaving a persistent few behind. It wasn't sunrise yet, but the surroundings had brightened up, from black to a muddy dark blue. Good morning, Simon said, looking at Kai. He was seated behind Shay. Shay was worried about you the entire time. No, I wasn't. Shay became pale, hearing the tease. Humph, Arlen grunted, his eyes darting around, looking at the sea, and back at the land. What's so good about the morning? Can't you feel it? Too silent, Kai said, noticing what Arlen had meant. Not bad for your intelligence, Red, Arlen said, mockingly. I can feel it. They are already here. The sun will rise in half an hour, Simon said, looking at the sky. Yes, Arlen agreed. I mean to be on land before we see the first ray of sun. Swish. A little push and the broomsticks got fired towards the sea like bullets. They were just passing over a tiny island when suddenly the sound of a twister came up to them. Kai saw 1, 2, 3. 5 stern-faced people were flying towards them, each having broomsticks of their own. Arlen must have sensed them too, for he dived and brought the broomstick to just above the sea's high waves. I am leaving it to you, Arlen shouted. Simon. Chapter 13. Attack of the Order, Official Wizards. 1. Published by Scribble Hub. The formation of their attackers made no sense to Kai. Of the 5 pursuers, the 2 broomsticks in the front were flying quite a bit faster. Both riders were wearing long coats and had a hat over their heads. Formal wears, Kai guessed, and then it hit him. They are official wizards. Kai had asked Arlen why the so-called Wizards Council would hunt Mr. Beetle. Wizards are men, Arlen had told him, all fear something they don't understand. Stop, one wizard shouted, turn around and land on the island. Otherwise, don't blame us for not showing any mercy. Red, Arlen shouted, be prepared for a sneak attack. Kai nodded. But it wasn't the sneaky ones they should have worried about, Kai found out soon enough. The second official wizard didn't give any warning. He flicked the wand, and Kai felt as if a train was coming at him. The very air rumbled as Arlen twisted the broomstick to dodge. What was that? Kai thought, his heart dreading that tremor. Simon? Arlen glared at Simon. If not now, then when? Kai saw a shocking scene then. The broomsticks were flying at their top speed, but Simon, sitting behind Shay now, stood up. If it weren't for his hunchback, there couldn't be something straighter than him. The wind failed to stir anything other than Simon's robes. Then Simon danced. Kai had never seen someone being so graceful before. Kai saw Simon looking at the water. Then Simon's hands shot out like the snap of a bowstring, tense first, but thunderous afterward. They were flying low enough for Kai's toes to feel the wet chill in the sea. The 2 wizards had their wands out to fire those blasts again. Suddenly, something shot out of the sea. They were surrounded by so much water and foaming waves that Kai couldn't see it. It was fast, and it was powerful. Bang. One wizard had almost got thrown off the broomstick. He would have fallen if it weren't for him clutching the broomstick at the last moment using one hand. The second wizard's broomstick lost balance completely, the twigs at its end blasting into pieces. Simon's dance wasn't over yet. He slouched, his hands going downwards, and then he stood up, his hands shooting up like bullets. Bullets. Kai saw them this time. They were water bullets. Tiny globules of water, no larger than a mouthful. No wonder I couldn't see them before, Kai thought. At such a level, it's hard to distinguish them from the thrashing waves. The wizard, dangling on the broom with one hand, must have seen them too. He flicked his wand, blasting the water bullet away. The other wasn't as fortunate, though. His broomstick was going round and round, like a dead bird falling from the sky. The second water bullet hit right in his face. Kai saw a shower of blood, and then the wizard fell. But before the sea could claim his body, he disappeared. Kai could have sworn he heard a sound, like a crack of a whip. But it might as well have something else. He wasn't sure. Peter, the first wizard roared, eyeing the drowning broom. The sea claimed it instantaneously. The 3 others, flying a considerable distance behind the official wizards, must have realized what was happening. They rushed their brooms towards the wizard. Simon's hand had again gone down, his feet twisting on the wooden staff as if it was a floor. The wizard aimed the wand, and suddenly, Simon's broom shook. At such a speed, that slight shake was enough to send the inexperienced Shay tumbling down on the waters. Simon broke his graceful dance and lunged at Shay's outstretched hands. Arlen had to turn around to face the wizard, otherwise, it meant death for both Simon and Shay. Expelliarmus. Arlen flung his wand hand at the wizard. The wizard had already found his balance by then. Kai gaped, seeing the spell that had thrown Sonia's hands getting thwarted by just a flick of the wizard's wand. This, Kai could scarcely believe it. It's like we are children in front of him. The wizard gave Arlen a scornful look before shouting the same words. Expelliarmus. Kai had thought Arlen would lose his wand, then, what happened, though, was even more unbelievable. Arlen, along with his wand, got blasted off the broomstick. Kai lunged and caught Arlen's foot, but then, they were completely open to the wizard's magic. The wizard again pointed the wand, but something hit him from behind. Bang. It hit again. Then once more. Bullets after water bullets surrounded him from all sides, hitting his vital areas. Kai saw madness had overtaken Simon. The dance, though, hadn't disgraced its charm. The wizard had to take the broomstick up, but the bullets followed until they couldn't see him anymore. What's this skill? Kai asked himself. How can he use so many of them? Simon, Arlen called out, taking control of the broomstick, his face bloody. They are coming. Let's go. Simon nodded. He dragged the drenched Shay and brought the broomstick to its maximum speed. The 3 orders contestants were just on their tail. There were 2 women among them. In the lead was a man, short of height but lean. He could have been bald, if not for his long braided ponytail. For a mustache, he had 2 whiskers, and a streamlined, thread-like long beard. All his hair seemed to run away from him as his broomstick cut through the wind. The woman on his right had a round face and saggy breasts. Kai could even see her nipples through the wet clothing over her. They were that close. There was one another, but Kai couldn't see her face. She was on Simon and Shay's tail. It was she who attacked first. Kai saw her taking out a gun, like the one he had read about in the archives during his previous life. It was short, one-handed, but her hands were steady. Bang. Captain, Kai shouted, this one is a newbie. Kai gestured towards the woman with the saggy breasts. No weapon. Her flight was shaky, and there was nervousness on her face. The ability to smell fear had become an instinct for Kai. Arlen must have realized what Kai was implying. Their broomstick was like a bullet, air sizzling about it, but then, it stopped. The sudden break would have thrown Kai off the broom if he wasn't expecting it. The 2 contestants behind Kai, though, weren't. Kai threw himself off backward. The man realized what was happening, but his momentum was too great. He stirred the broom towards the newbie woman, trying to huddle together. Kai smirked. Hey, weirdo, he shouted over the waves. Wanna play catch? It appeared then. 2 enormous legs, with half a feet long talons, appeared out of the blue, separating the man from the woman like a blanket. The long sword appeared in Kai's hands, and the newbie's broomstick did the rest. It brought her to him. The woman couldn't even turn it before the steel kissed her. The power behind the slash was so great that it cut her open from neck to waist. The sea tasted the blood. Kai touched the corner of the hippogriff's legs, sending it in the long's word back to the inventory. The execution was so perfect, and fast, that the woman firing at Simon and Shay hadn't even noticed. Arlen made a quick roundabout, and Kai caught the broom's wooden staff just over the bristles. The braided leader had been so shocked that he even forgot to chase them. He looked to his right, but the woman had gone. The sea had claimed her broomstick, the blood indistinguishable from the dark waters under them. Kai grinned vilely. He looked at the man and gave him a middle finger. You have killed one order's contestant. Your title status is updated. Title, murderer. Specification, kill 10 contestants in a single random world. The contestants must be from the same or higher floor than yours. Status, 7/10. Effect, perception +2, worth +1. 3 more, Kai thought. He looked at the man and the woman. 3 more. Kai pulled himself, slowly but surely. Behind him, the man had put the foot on the paddle, his broomstick shaking along with him in rage as he chased. Bang. Kai's ears rang. This bullet had come for him, he realized. The woman had given up on Simon and Shay, and now she was joining the man in the pursuit. Arlen took out his wand and aimed at the gun, but the woman flew away almost instantaneously. Kai realized Arlen hadn't intended to use the spell either way. He was just creating distance between them. The chase lasted for the entire length of the sea, but the man and woman didn't catch them. And except for the occasional sound of the gun going off, there wasn't anything to hear. When the first ray of sun hit Kai's face, even the sun had gone silent. A bad feeling hit Kai then. Something's wrong, he thought. They aren't trying hard enough. Arlen, Kai shouted. Sit tight, Arlen spat back. The sudden brown and green brought Kai's thought to present. First, it was a line, and as they flew closer, it became cliffs. The seawater rampaging high rocks with endless anger and defiance. Soon, they crossed the sea. The danger gave no sign before it hit them. Boom. Kai instinctively wrapped his arms around Mr. Beetle. It also seemed like Kai had been dearly waiting for something like that to happen. They rolled, the rocks drumming on Kai's back. The lower end of the broken broom fell just by his side. Kai lifted his neck, and then, he saw him. The man who had disappeared with a cracking sound. The official wizard, Peter. Kai's hand slipped when he pushed against the ground. There was wetness on the rocks, moss and small puddles of water. He could feel it, smell it, and touch it, the decisive moment. Kai struggled to stand up, his eyes never leaving the official wizard. Peter's face was swollen, beyond the humanely describable terms. His left eyes couldn't be seen anymore under the protruded black-blue flesh. Traces of blood still lingered at the corner of his lips, and his wand hand trembled with every step he took towards them. Thump. Kai hid Mr. Beetle behind him as he heard another crash. Simon and Shay's broom exploded midair, throwing them off on the rocks. His eyes found Arlen then. The blue-haired captain was standing on his feet too, his wand out and open. Peter. The second wizard landed beside Peter, his wand giving out a trail of smoke. Are you all right? Kai knew they were in trouble then. Arlen's change en route had managed to injure 2 official wizards, but they weren't dead. Kai took out the Lonsword. Yes, Peter nodded. You sure took your time, Dickon. Arlen, Simon, and Shay approached Kai. Arlen was still okay, but Simon could scarcely even walk. His left leg was broken, the white bone splintered and beaming out of the flesh. Shay supported him as they grouped around Mr. Beetle. He wouldn't be dancing anytime soon, Kai thought dismayingly. The 2 orders contestants caught up with the 2 parties facing each other. They got off their brooms behind the officials and scampered towards them. I told you, Dickon commented, showing displeasure. We are just recruits. It would have been wise to bring more force. Wiser, yet, for a veteran to accompany us. Let me take out my badge. Dickon reached out to the in pocket of his doublet. Arlen broke into a sudden dash of madness then. Kai was at Arlen's tail, running zigzag, hiding from Peter's eyesight. Peter let out a murderous grin, but just as he was about to use the spell, a water bullet hit the back of his head. You, he roared, stumbling to find the balance. Petrificus totalis, Arlen shouted, his face becoming paler than the vanishing dark of the sky. Dickon couldn't react in time and stiffened. Kai jumped over Arlen and slashed at the wizard. The steel had almost touched Dickon's neck when he heard the rumbling incantation. Incarcerus. Kai got flung by what seemed like thick ropes. They wrapped around him, entangling his arms and legs. He didn't hear the words again, but, in the next moment, he found Arlen blown away, too. Damn it, Kai cursed, trying to bring the Lonsword edge to the ropes. That's it, Peter grumbled. Kai saw Peter shooting a glance at Simon, who was now lying on the ground. The official wizard came towards Kai then, the other half of his face also turning blue in rage. I gave you a chance, Peter said, pointing the wand at Kai. Kai's mind shook, his perception screaming high. He saw Peter opening his mouth, but the incantation and intention, both felt dark even to him. Crucio. Kai howled, but no voice came out. It felt like his insides were twisting into themselves. Thousands of needles were pricking his flesh, and hundreds of knives were cutting him apart. Pain. On and on, it kept going on as if the pain was eternal, and suddenly it became quiet. In the twists and turns, the Lonsword had cut the ropes apart. But Kai couldn't find the strength to even think properly. Kai saw blackness covering his eyes. Then came a roar, so loud, that Kai felt he had returned to the thunderstorm, surrounded by the old enemies who he had killed. This roar was lightning, thunder, storm's rage. This roar had come from Mr. Beetle. WHO dare use dark magic in our presence? Chapter 14, Attack of the Order, Glitch vs. Pokemon, 2. Published by Scribble Hub. Every fiber of his body ached. From the tips of his fingers to the depth of his bones, all were crying out, a howl of the bitter end. Kai was no stranger it, but never had he experienced such pain, spread thoroughly into him. If it was, the roar woke him up. The rope had almost loosened around him, but Kai couldn't take his eyes off Peter's face. The wizard was horrified beyond recognition. Half of his face was already swollen. The remaining half had turned pale blue and white. The colors of fear, terror, and confusion lingered on his face. Kai had to look beyond Arlen. There he stood, behind Shay's pitiful figure, and over Simon's broken body. Wrapped under an ugly coverlet, holding a wand. Mr. Beetle stepped forward, his sunken eyes beaming with just rage. Peter stumbled back, one step at a time. WHO was it? Mr. Beetle roared, blasting the rocks and moss rolling away. Peter, the wizard. No, Peter, the fool answered by pointing his wand at the legendary wizard. So it was you, Mr. Beetle said, lifting his wand. All the heat vanished suddenly, and the chill came running to take its place. A breath of frozen air escaped Kai's mouth. Then he heard that, the same word he had heard many times by now, Expelliarmus. When Kai had seen it the first time, it was just a scarlet light. The second time, crossing over the sea, he didn't even notice that. He had expected a flash this time, or worse, a bolt of lightning. What appeared, though, was a pillar of holy light. The pillar shot straight towards Peter. Dickon got caught by the pillar's edge and flung off to the cliff's boundary some dozens of meters away. Peter wasn't that fortunate. The pillar hit him, engulfing his figure from top to bottom. And then a broken kite fluttered in the sky. Kai never saw him again. 100 meters, 200 meters, or even farther. But no sound of Peter crashing on the rocks reached him. Kai threw the heavy ropes aside and stood up. Strength seemed to have abandoned him, though. The first step he took brought him to his knees. In a single attack, he had lost more than half of his HP. And for the first time, his SP had been damaged, too. He felt tired, feeble, and powerless. Now get rid of the other two, Kai thought, turning his head towards Mr. Beetle. What the? The boldness and power the old wizard had shown weren't there anymore. He was quivering like a leaf before facing the storm. His head was twisting from left to right, and then up. It's here, Mr. Beetle, the bard mumbled, shaking. Dia. Kai looked at Mr. Beetle, but all he saw was a terrified old man. Suddenly, Mr. Beetle chose a random direction and ran off. Kai saw a blur chasing the mad wizard. It was the woman. She wasn't the strongest of the 2 orders contestants, but she sure was the fastest. And she had the gun. Simon, Red, Arlen shouted, almost running behind her. Hold the other one. But Arlen didn't need to give that order. The round-faced, long-braided man had already stood himself between Arlen's disappearing figure and Kai. The man grinned. Kai gave a meaningful look to Simon and held the Lonsword with both of his hands. When he looked back, the man's hand wasn't empty. There was some kind of ball in his right hand. Its top half was red, and the bottom white. Kai could even see a small button over the seam where the red and white met. What's that? He asked himself. The man replied by pressing the button and throwing the ball. A sudden flash of light and his raspy voice echoed in Kai's ears. Go, Ekans. Hiss. Kai was the first, and the only one, to understand this hiss. No, he didn't understand it. He just knew. It meant danger. Then he saw it. It couldn't have been anything other than what Kai had thought. A giant snake. It had a striking purple color and its belly glowed yellow. There was a bright yellow band behind its head, and a yellow rattle at the tip of its tail. Kai found two large yellow reptilian slits, looking down at him. Even though it was coiled, Kai had to look up to meet its gaze. The snake was at least or over 3 meters. The man roared, Ekans, use snare. A dangerous feeling rose in Kai's mind. The perception's engine was blasting fuel to his legs, imploring him to run. Kai took a step forward, hotness spreading through his entire body. Suddenly, the creature's eyes seemed to enlarge. A purple-yellow swirl in those slits and an ethereal wave emitted out, engulfing Kai and others. Bang! A hammer struck Kai's head, his SP falling 10 points. The ethereal pain made him tremble, and he would have lost everything if it wasn't for the heat. His chest was screeching bloody murder within him now. Thump! Kai snapped his head back and saw Shay falling face down over the rocks. Even Simon's knees had buckled, and he was panting. One more attack and Kai was sure the one-eyed man would die. The man had given another order to the creature. Ekans, use wrap. The magical creature lunged at Kai. Among the three of them, only Kai could face it. Only he was standing. Only he had the weapon. And only he knew how. The creature slithered, and so did Kai. It came at Kai with its mouth wide open, larger than Kai's head. A foul breath hit Kai's nostrils, and he ducked. The creature jerked and coiled around, trying to trap Kai, but he slid away. The longsword slashed at the creature's defenseless head. Kai expected a blood shower. Instead, he saw a shallow cut, barely deep enough to make him see the snake's blood. A color of deep red blue. Fuck, Kai cursed. What is this defense? Hiss. The snake hissed in pain, and its tail came for Kai's open back. Kai didn't turn around but put the longswords flat in between his back and the tail's bash. Cough. Kai coughed out blood, stumbling forward. Warning, the Castle Forged longsword's quality has dropped to 20%. The item will disappear once the quality becomes 0. The creature came for Kai again. It coiled around him, trying to squeeze out his breath. Its forked tongue kept coming out, hissing at him. Meanwhile, Kai's chest was burning up, hotter and hotter. Before the snake could put strength in its muscles, 3 water bullets hit its head. One went straight into its eye, and the creature hissed in tremendous pain. Kai managed to take the advantage of its confusion and slithered out of its grip. Suddenly, a misshapen piece of rock fell over the creature's head. The creature backed away, and then Kai sensed why. There were 2 more of such rocks, hovering just above its head. Who? Kai asked, looking back. His eyes went wide when he saw Shay's blood-covered figure, her eyes staring at the rocks without blinking. How is she doing this? Is she like Simon? But she isn't dancing. Is this magic? But she doesn't have a wand either. Questions after questions appeared in Kai's mind, and he would have found an answer if it wasn't for Simon's call. Red, he shouted, falling back on the rocks. Attack. Shay couldn't seem to hold any longer too. Kai saw the 2 rocks getting hurled at the snake. He followed them. He knew how the snake would dodge the rocks, and where it would end up. Kai was familiar with the movements of these types of creatures. And then, Kai thought, narrowing his eyes, I would thrust the sword into its mouth. It was a perfect plan. Yes, if the snake had dodged the rocks, but it didn't. Ekans, the man shouted, playing with his beard. Use sludge bomb. From where had it come, and how had it come, Kai did not know. He saw the snake opening its mouth and then shooting out an enormous ball of mud like a cannonball. It was powerful enough to trap the rocks and bring them along with it. No, Kai was in its path. He lunged sideways, but the ball of mud caught the longsword. Kai had to let it go. Shay and Simon weren't that lucky. They couldn't even move. Boom. Ha. The man laughed, his hands outstretched and his face pale. I knew it. This creature is the perfect slave. It does whatever I tell it to do. Kai kneeled over the rocks, blood dripping out of his mouth and nose. He had lost his weapon, and his strength had almost vanished. His head was drooping low, and the sound of panting was even louder than the man's outrageous words. But Kai was grinning, like a maniac. How could I forget that? Kai asked himself, his eyes turning into slits. A wriggling snake tattoo appeared on his right arm. The surrounding water sensed the heat coming off him and evaporated. Kai ran. With all the strength he could muster, he lunged at the snake. The man couldn't see his eyes, Kai knew. Ekans, the man commanded the creature. Rap. Kai's slits met those of the creature's. The snake out a loud hiss, uncoiling itself to slither towards Kai. Kai's mouth opened then. No sound came out, though. Kai wanted to talk, but his throat felt stiff. But somehow, Kai transferred his thoughts. A slight exchange of eye contact. A passive thought. An intention. Elementary snake language. An ethereal hiss escaped Kai's throat, like the sigh of the summer's wind. His throat ached, his stomach twisted, and his eyes became bloodshot. Stay. The beast let out a maddened roar, shaking its head and thrashing its tail. It hissed, looking back at the man. It hissed louder when it turned to look at Kai. Kai was only a few feet away from it. Then Kai passed it. The magical creature's entire body shook. The hissing never stopped. The braided man's face was already pale, but seeing the snake's state, it became blue and green. Ekans, the man roared out of his lungs. Sludge bomb. No, Kai hissed, passing the intention without looking back. This hiss brought bright blood with it in his mouth. Kai felt his throat's muscles tearing with a cloudiness in his eyes. His HP regeneration had been working non-stop till now, but it was slowing down again. Roar, hiss. The sound of madness came from behind, the beast struggling to carry out the order. But which one? Who to follow? What to do? A perfect slave, Kai thought, rushing at the man. What will happen if it doesn't know who its master is? Kai punched out. The man stumbled, dodging the punch. It didn't seem to Kai that the enemy was a skilled fighter. But Kai was weak, tired, and was struggling for breath too. The punch followed the kick, like the tail of the snake, slithering and invisible. It landed between the man's legs. The red and white ball dropped out of the man's hand. He clutched his manhood with both hands and let out an agonizing howl of pain and misery. His knees buckled, and in the next moment, he was on the rocks, rolling and raging. Kai followed. The man saw Kai, and then his eyes fell on Kai's reptilian pupils. Fear must have overcome the pain then, as the man jolted up on his feet and cried out. Ekans, rap. The snake passed Kai, its speed more than double. The magical beast didn't face any confusion about what to do. No hiss had come out of Kai's throat. No intention had been passed. It didn't wrap around Kai, though. It went for the man, and coiled around him, acting as a shield. Unbreakable, impassable. Ha. The man laughed. Wait, you just wait. I will take my time to fuck you, pretty boy. Kai was laughing too, as he had been waiting for it to happen. His vile smile shook the man. The hiss came bursting out of Kai's throat. Rip. Kai's reptilian slits sent a commanding gaze to the purple and yellow snake as if he was a lord, and his bidding must be carried out. The beast knew what to do then. The unbreakable shield became a prison, the snake's body squeezing the man's chest. What? A muffled voice escaped the man's throat. It was too late. The snake might be a little stronger than the man, but it was faster. It was closer. Long black fangs bit into his neck. A crunch. Kai saw the beast taking out half of the man's throat. Blood burst out in hundreds of liquid jets, turning the snake's yellows to reds. Go. One last command and the reptilian slithered away. Kai was pressed for time. He forgot what his HP was, or if he was tired. He rushed, like a bull in heat. Kai's hand reached first, at the man's throat and went down. The man vomited blood on Kai's face. Kai fumbled around, ripping everything inside the man, searching for something. He felt the heart, and crushed it. You have killed one order's contestant. Elementary snake language. Proficiency 5%, plus 5%. Chapter 15. The Tales of Beetle the Bard. 1. Published by Scribble Hub. As the notification appeared, the magical beast gave out a last hiss and vanished, turning into a blue ray of light. Kai's eyes followed. He saw the ray entering the red and white ball, but the ball disappeared too. A hologram of the treasure chest appeared over the man's body. It wasn't the time to enjoy the loot, though. Kai snapped his head, looking into the distance. He could hear the gun going off, a dim burst of light now and then. How much MP Arlen has left? Kai asked himself, his thoughts murderous. Should I go? Of course, he wasn't thinking of going and helping the captain, but... Your title status is updated. Title, Murderer. Specification, kill 10 contestants in a single random world. The contestants must be from the same or higher floor than yours. Status, 8/10. Effect, perception +2, worth +1. Kai ran, looking at the number 8. His direction, though, was taking him away from Arlen. A pile of mud was in his sight and two figures were struggling to come out from under it. Kai appeared like a phantom at the top of the mud. 33 points, he saw his HP crawling up. Tiredness, though, didn't have any step, and at HP regaining points didn't affect it either. There was no replacement for what Kai need, rest. Kai's hand went for the longsword's hilt, its blade stuck in the mud. It took him time, a few seconds, but he pulled it out. It was bent, one edge had lost its sharpness. Kai looked at Simon first. Only his head and right hand were out of the mud. His face was flattened against the ground. His fingers were twitching, pushing the rocks, but in vain. He couldn't even twist his neck. The weight of mud was too much to give the one-eyed man much freedom. Then he looked at Shay. She looked back. Her entire body was under the layer of thick, viscous mud, save her head. She was crying big, heavy tears. Her mouth became an ugly smile, then turned into a sad frown as she looked at him. A whimper came out of her throat. It could have meant anything. A loud boom resounded behind his back, but Kai was looking at the orange, yolk-like morning sun. Kai wasn't an indecisive person, but cunning deeds needed thinking, and thinking needed time. He had to compromise and find a middle ground somewhere. What would happen next? Kai gave it a hard thought. There is no way to pin Simon and Shay's death on the enemy. Am I strong enough to kill an injured Arlen? Kai asked himself. The answer was flat number. He could scarcely hold back the urge to vomit. His SP was still down, his soul weak. One flick of Arlen's wand was enough to send him tumbling down. Can I poison him? The thought passed by. No, he answered. The blood essence was still in cooldown. If he were to lose more HP, he won't have the strength to take Mr. Beetle to the destination. Ha, Kai snorted. And how will I take him? I can't even use a broom. A victorious laugh followed the previous boom. Kai knew the meaning behind it. The woman's dead. Please, Shay finally forced out a word. Then another, don't. Kai asked the last question. Can killing Simon become a fatal mistake? It can, he reluctantly answered. The man was indeed a messy knot of tangled threads. Kai had seen men like Simon. He knew what had happened to those who weren't smart about their choices regarding them. The answer might have come from his experience, or it could have been an instinct, but both were important enough for Kai to not ignore them. Kai sighed. The thrill of killing, getting a title, and becoming powerful got buried by persistent will. He extended the longsword toward Shay's head. She closed her eyes, muttering the names of gods, of whom Kai knew nothing about. She blubbered. Tears, snot, and saliva was running down from her face, diffusing into the puddle of muddy water under her head. Slap. Kai hit her cheek with the flat of the sword. Hey, he said, almost laughing. What are you crying about? He stepped off and hacked at the mud, not heavily, but with enough force to loosen the hardened soil. Murderer, he thought, pulling out Shay. There is still plenty of time to get it. I have just arrived in this mysterious place. Shay backed away from him as soon as she came out in the open. Kai didn't even spare her a single glance. He moved towards Simon. His longsword lifted and was just about to come down when the mud around Simon broke apart. Dozens of water bullets ripped apart the hardened soil, and Simon slid out, looking up. Kai's widened eyes met the single pupil of the man. Ah, Red, Simon said, a dry smile on his face. Thank you, but I won't be needing your help. Kai let the longsword return to inventory. He looked at the one-eyed man and knew he had been lucky to not attack him before. Simon's face was ashen, almost white. He was dying, but the water bullets could have injured Kai mortally. A dangerous opponent, Kai thought. For how long he was holding them back? I won't survive, Simon said, looking up at Kai. I've lost too much blood. When he slid out of the broken pieces of hardened mud, Kai saw what Simon was talking about then. Simon's broken leg seemed to have been crushed to pulp from the impact of the mud bomb. Can't you just eat and regenerate HP? Kai asked. Desmond's injury wasn't any worse. Yeah, Simon said, grimacing with pain. But Desmond had that water pouch, didn't he? No water pouch for this old man, I guess. It struck Kai then. No amount of food was going to be enough for Simon. He needed to stop the blood loss and let his HP regeneration overcome the HP drop. It was a feat that can only be done using magical items. Should I take the risk then? Kai asked himself. Do you want to kill me? Kai didn't respond. He stared into the old man's one eye. It had lost all the brightness of living. His mouth was opening and closing for every puff of air. Your death means nothing, Kai replied. Not now. Ah, Simon nodded, seeing the two approaching figures from afar. What about my life? What, is it some trick question, Simon? Kai asked, also noticing Arlen and Shay's blurry figures in the distance. What do you mean? Simon watched Kai with that one eye of his as if looking into him. The dry smile was still on his face, but it didn't look hopeless to Kai. No trick, Red, Simon said, chuckling. Only you can save my life. I am done here, Kai said, taking a step away from Simon. Live or die, it's your business. Wait, Simon shouted. It must have taken him all his strength, for he couldn't do anything for a few moments after that. Kai looked back and saw the dead man, fighting the urge to put a drop of light neurotoxin into him. What now? The wind had picked up momentum by then. Dawn turned into a mature morning, and Kai found he was hungry. His stomach grumbled as he saw his HP regenerating. Though the SP regeneration was almost half that of HP, it was rising too. I am not joking, Simon said, taking another shallow breath. His hands found their grip in a muddy puddle, and he straightened himself to look at Kai. You have the food that can save me. For a moment, Kai did not know what Simon meant, but it came fast to him. The food, the meaning behind Simon's words. Ha, Kai laughed, amused over Simon's foolish suggestion. You want the flesh of hippogriff's legs? Even 10 of you isn't enough for me to give it up. No, not me, I know, Simon said, his voice breaking. But I have something which can match its value. More than enough, I would say. Kai's brows pressed, hearing that. As much as Kai knew, Simon had nothing that Kai wanted. Yes, the man was more mysterious than Arlen, but what use of that mysteriousness when Simon couldn't even save himself? Still, a dead man is talking, Kai thought. No harm in hearing him out. Say it, Kai said. If a trade you want, a trade you will get. Yes, a trade, Simon whispered, his eyes shining against the morning sunlight. But not now. I can only give it after the mission's end before teleporting back to the primordial tower. Are you fucking kidding me? Kai's eyes widened. No, Simon said, looking into Kai's hazel pupils as if he could read his thoughts. Think about it. A man of your nature must know when to take the advantage of an opportunity when presented. Also, it's not like I am your match. You can kill me anytime if I back out and turn your 8 into 9. Kai's pupils almost became slits, hotness rising in his chest. How? Just how Simon got to know that he killed the 3 in the shops. Kai asked himself, his hands twitching to take out the longsword. Or is he just guessing? Simon chuckled. I am just a dying old man at your mercy. Kai was as strange to mercy as the sky was to the earth. But his instincts had never betrayed him. So, he chuckled back. All right, number 9, you got yourself a deal. Tell me again, Arlen asked, eating the roasted chicken. How did the man die? Damn it, Kai cursed. He is not letting it go. The braided man's death seemed to have troubled Arlen. If not in stats, the enemy was as strong as Arlen in battle prowess. For him to die, even under the combined power of Kai, Simon, and Shay, could mean a lot of things. He had taken out a snake type of magical beast, Kai said, repeating the same words. And then the beast turned against him. I took the opportunity and killed the bastard. Crushed his heart, you mean, Arlen said, narrowing his eyes at Kai. Didn't you fear the beast? Fuck you, just eat the meat, Kai thought, anger bubbling up inside him. No, he said, the beast had already disappeared into the red and white ball. Pokeball, a tiny, feeble voice came from Arlen's behind. Kai could barely see Shay's hair shining red and gold there. Pokeball, is that what the thing is called? Kai thought, how does she know? Shay's right, Arlen said, looking at Shay over his shoulder, making her blush. That's an item from a random world full of magical beasts. Thump. Kai felt his heart would have given out if he hadn't eaten to his fill by now. He remembered the purple yellow-colored snake, and a hidden smile surfaced on his face. Which world is it, Captain? Kai asked, looking at Mr. Beetle. Can you tell me? Arlen followed Kai's gaze. Even an idiot could tell Kai was using the man he had killed as a payment for the answer. I know, Arlen chuckled, not minding Kai's shameless attitude. On the contrary, Arlen even seemed to admire these little things about Kai. The world of Pokemon. Pokemon, Kai imprinted the name into his memory. Go on then, Arlen commanded, finishing the meal. Collect your loot. We will leave the moment Simon says he can handle the broom. Captain, Kai said, standing up as if it was just a fleeting comment. I think we should cover Mr. Beetle under a cloth. His state isn't exactly becomingly, don't you think? Kai approached the corpse, leaving behind Arlen to mull over his words. The smell of death hit Kai, along with piss and shit. The man must have lost control of his bowels at the moment of death. Crabs had claimed his body, and some were even going inside him as Kai had left a big hole from his throat to chest. The treasure chest's hologram beckoned him. The key appeared, then. Kai had already chosen the random item option. Click. The key and treasure chest vanished. Kai scanned his inventory, hoping it had enough space to hold whatever the system and his luck had awarded him. A smile, haha, Kai laughed, seeing the item. He took it out. Item, Pokeball, Generation 1. Grade, Common. Specification, an item to catch and store live magical beasts. Requirement. 1. Elementary Pokemon Trainer. 2. 2 megapixels per second. Attributes. 1. Pokemon catch rate 15% to 45%. 2. Current status, empty. Skill, not applicable. Effect. 1. Store magical beasts by converting them from matter to energy. 2. The beasts within the item will become friendly with the contestant. 3. Only E to E plus graded magical beasts can be captured. 4. Any type of magical beast can be stored. 5. Magical beasts HP, MP, and SP regeneration plus 100% within the item. And 6. Pokemon catch rate depends on the beast's stats while being captured. Quality, 73%. Chapter 16. The Tales of Beetle the Bard, 2. Published by Scribble Hub. The Primordial Tower has 21 floors, Arlen told Kai as they flew with Mr. Beetle pressed between them. The two systems divide all the floors into two territories. One is called Chaos Valley, and the other, Order's Peak. An empire rules each territory, and a noble from the empire governs each set of floors. They are collectively styled as set lords. So each system has its own set lords? Kai asked, not expecting an answer. So he did the next best thing, asking many questions, hoping to get an answer to at least one. What do they do? What other powers do they have? Are they the strongest? How to become a set lord? Have you gone insane? Arlen looked back, rage welling up in his blue eyes. Only one answer and that's it. Pay me mission credits if you want more. Yes, there are 2 set lords for every 3 floors. The set lord of the first set of the Chaos Valley is named Baron Silvas. So there are 14 set lords, 7 on each side, Kai thought, summarizing. I wonder why Arlen didn't speak of the 22nd floor. Kai had just thought of breaking his mouth open when a distant rumble hit his ears. A massive thunderstorm had covered everything in their eyesight. Hidden amid the murderous supercell winds was the place Kai had come to know as Dufftown. Run. Kai didn't need to heed his perception. All the fibers of his muscles, his bones, his soul were screaming, urging him to run. They all were feeling it. A monstrous danger beyond their capabilities, beyond reasoning. Kai looked back and found Simon. He was struggling to keep the broomstick at its height, his lips pressed into a thin line. Shay was almost petrified. Her eyes were wide open, wind smashing the white, making them red. Her blonde hair flailed, like 1,000 threads of silk made of sunlight. Arlen stirred the broomstick forward, slowly but steadily. Simon and Shay followed in the shadow of Arlen's courage. As they kept nearing the town, the thunderstorm seemed to take one step towards them. The wind was intensifying every few hundred meters, and only one thing was in their favor. Mr. Beetle had woken up. Yes, get me there, the Mad Wizard said. Others are waiting for me in the town. My lord, Arlen shouted, balancing the broom. Can something be done about the wind? Kai got the shock of his life when Mr. Beetle took out his wand. Even Arlen forgot to blink at the sight. It was just a passing request, Kai knew. They had never thought that Mr. Beetle would really take action. Sure can, good lad. You too, the Grand Wizard said, beckoning Simon and Shay with one hand. Stay close to us. Simon came rushing. The half-creepy smile on his face had returned. When they had come close enough, Mr. Beetle flicked his wand, rotating his one arm in circles. Suddenly, the wind weakened. Kai could feel an invisible layer of mana around them, much like the one around Hidden Moor Hills. Arlen picked up the pace then, unworried about the murderous wind. But even the magic wasn't enough to cancel out the noise. If he couldn't see it, Kai would have thought some high-tech bombs were going off. Roar. The sudden roar thundered in Kai's mind, seeping into him, in his blood, trying to burst his brain. Blood seeped out of his ears, and he could feel a sweetness between his teeth too. What was that? Kai asked himself, panting, locking his legs around the broomstick. Arlen wasn't faring any better. His face had gained a blue tinge, and the broom was shaking like never. If it wasn't for Mr. Beetle's magic, they would have already fallen. Captain, Simon called out, closing in on Arlen. Shay's gone. What was that roar? Simon's state was bloodier than Kai's. How he had managed to stay in the air was a mystery. It became an even bigger mystery when Kai saw he was keeping Shay's unconscious figure from falling off the broomstick. Arlen struggled to utter words. I don't know, and I don't think we should know. Kai and others looked at Mr. Beetle, hoping to get some answers. But even he looked puzzled. It didn't take for the 3 contestants to guess that the origins of that roar lay in another random world. Soon Arlen landed the broomstick just on the Dufftown's outskirts. The thunderstorm was all around them, and black-gray clouds had shadowed the sky. Lightning crackled, and beastly roars surrounded them, imprisoning their senses. We don't belong here, Kai told himself. We are too weak for something at this level. Suddenly, the darkness receded. Everything seemed to have brightened up. It should have given Kai and others some relief, but their faces had become ashen. The perception, which once had urged them to run, also gave up. You are dead, it said. None can save you. Kai, Arlen, and Simon all reluctantly lifted their heads, feeling the heat on their faces. A massive fire column, fire tornado, firefall, if one must give it a name, was coming towards them. There was no escaping it, and there was no defense against it. Only Mr. Beetle was their hope, but he had become mute again. I'll kill him, Kai fumed. He had never found someone so unpredictable. Simon, Arlen whispered, stumbling back, but they all knew no amount of water bullets were enough to put out this fire. Everything had gone silent. Ha ha. The laugh came out of nowhere. Kai saw a hooded man appearing in front of them. He was tall, his back straight, and there was a power within him which made Kai's mouth go dry. The man's hands moved in quick succession. Kai couldn't see what he was doing, but, in the next moment, he saw the man slamming his palms on the earth. Earth-style, mud wall. With a bang, a wall sprung up in front of them. It towered over them, like a beast made of mud and stones, crawling its way out of Earth's womb. Then the firefall struck it. Boom. Ha ha. The laugh echoed again as the wall kept standing like an ancient giant. My lord, it's an honor. Arlen bowed, followed by Simon and Kai. Mr. Beetle, the hooded man said, ignoring the rest. You seem rather shaken. You aren't injured, are you? No, no, Mr. Beetle replied, shaking profusely. You must hurry now. At once, my lord, the hooded man said, putting a hand over Mr. Beetle's shoulder. Time seemed to slow down for Kai. Sweat, and an unbearable chill, engulfed his entire body. His throat felt dry, his lips quivered, and the tips of his fingers throbbed. There was hidden in his heart and mind, a secret. It all depended on what the higher floor contestant would do next. Will he find out? Kai asked himself, his breath pausing. After a few moments, the hooded man looked at Arlen. Haha, you guys have done a wonderful job. Mission over. The hooded man vanished, proclaiming those words, along with Mr. Beetle. Kai felt as if they had become thin air, melting into the surroundings. But he couldn't think more about it. The dull gray notification had returned. Congratulations, contestant Kai Stormborn. You have completed the main mission. Main mission: assist Thunder Faction in saving the life of Beetle the Bard. Mission status: completed. Mission time limit: 48 hours. Mission grade: E. Side missions attempted: 3. Side missions completed: 3. Hidden missions attempted: 0. Calculating mission clear rate. Mission clear rate: 63%. Mission rewards: 1 plus 550 mission credits. 2 plus 2 attribute points. Warning: 1. You can only get 20 attribute points in the first set of the Primordial Tower. 2. You cannot leave the random world before the main mission's time limit is over. Time left: 1 hour. What does it mean I can't get over 20 attribute points? Kai asked. They had flown to a clearing miles away from Dufftown. Arlen was the first to arrive in the random world, so he would leave first, as Kai had found out. Shay was sitting close to Arlen, and since their landing, Arlen had been whispering something in her ears. It means what it says, Arlen smirked. No matter how many missions you do, you can only get 20 points in total from the first 3 floors. A word of advice, Red, Arlen added, his tone less mocking than before. Join an organization after returning to the Primordial Tower. There are many guilds serving the Empire, and your loot and materials, use them well. You know what I mean, right? The captain of guard stood up, after whispering a few last words in Shay's ears. He gave a silent nod to Simon and then furrowed his brows at Kai. Humph, Arlen snorted, a blue light shimmering around him. You are okay, I guess. Come to the Thunder Faction if you need any help. The blue light became a thundering flash. When Kai could see again, Arlen Willie had already disappeared. Shay didn't wait either. She just climbed the broomstick and took off, not even saying a goodbye to the boys. Kai and Simon shared a smile. Simon walked toward Kai. He reached into his pockets, took out a coin, and flicked it. Kai snatched it out of air. Arlen is right, Simon said, planting Kai with his one eye. It would be wise for you to join an organization. Kai observed the coin. It was iron. There might come a time when you meet Simon in another random world, Simon said, his smile gone. What does that mean? Kai frowned, feeling the cold iron markings rubbing against his fingers. He flipped it and saw the blurred relief of a hooded figure. When that happens, Simon added, eyeing Kai knowingly, present the coin to him and say, Valar Morghulis. Kai's frown deepened. Repeat after me, Simon insisted. Valar Morghulis. Valar Morghulis. Simon nodded. A man knows contestants like Red. A man searches for killers like Red, he said, creeping Kai out. But a man can't invite you. You are not ready, not yet. A sudden flash. Then Simon disappeared, leaving the deepest impression in Kai's mind. What the? Kai gaped, and I thought the old wizard was the craziest? Oh, wait, I can't take non-items with me, so what will happen to the coin? Puzzled, Kai threw the coin in his pocket, and looked around. A silence had taken over his surroundings at some point of time, claiming every nook and corner. To the farthest eyes could go, Kai could see not a single living thing. Nor could he sense anyone. Now, he was truly alone. Hee. Kai's sudden chuckle creeped the silence itself. It seemed to run away from him, looking over its shoulder. Ha ha. Kai held his hands high and laughed. He laughed like a maniac, his face contorting into that of a psychopath's. Ha ha ha. The wind tried to bury the sound, but the laugh intensified. Kai's knees buckled, no, not in fear, but in excitement, pleasure, and victory. Ha ha. The laugh had such an effect on him that tears streamed out of his eyes. His stomach ached, and he rolled over the earth, rocks, and grass, clutching it. What crazy, what madness, and what silence. Nothing felt crazier, more disturbing, and more demonic than this laugh. Ha ha ha. Some said he had become a demon after killing his mother. Ha 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 ha. Some said Edith Stormborn had birthed a demon, not a messiah. Ha 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 ha. Cough, cough. The laugh turned into a sudden fit of coughs, and Kai panted for air. Finally, he stopped, the laugh vanishing into a thin smile on his face. He lay there on the cool ground, gazing at the sky littered with clouds, the low wind blowing on his face, like a maiden's silk. The words echoed then, in Kai's mind, they repeated themselves for the 100th time. Your mission is to assist Thunder Faction in saving Mr. Beetle's life, Desmond had told Kai in the carriage. It has nothing to do with what happens to Arlen, or who the captain of guard is. Yes, Desmond, you were right, Kai told himself. It also had nothing to do with what would happen to Mr. Beetle after reaching Dufftown. And it also had nothing to do with what happens to that book of his. Kai's lips twisted into a hideous, vile grin. He swept his hand towards the sky as if snatching the entire vastness in one curl of his fingers. The sky, though, didn't move. It was still there, but Kai's hand wasn't empty either. A book. Kai's pale fingers were wrapped around its black cover, feeling its ancientness. In thick gray ink, the book's name seemed to stare murderously at Kai. One last scorning chuckle and Kai's clear hazel pupils reflected the title written in embossed runic symbols. He did not understand that runic title, but what could it mean other than? The Tales of Beetle the Bard. Chapter 17. The Tales of Beetle the Bard. 3. Published by Scribble Hub. The question was not about how, but when. It had to be fast. It had to be incredibly fast, for not even the legendary wizard to notice. Mr. Beetle was often in his scared, crazy state. Often didn't mean all the time, though. So, Kai needed to be as fluid as thin morning mist, and as quick as a bolt of lightning. Yet, the question had persisted. When to swap? The moment Desmond had talked to Kai about his mission's nature, this one thing had been taking roots in his mind, in his heart even more so. The lure was so great, so enticing, that Kai could scarcely think about something else. When he saw the similar-looking black book in Shay's hands, during their break after crossing Hidden Moor Hills, that greed had erupted with a bang. Shay's black book was the key. The opportunity had come so suddenly that Kai had to rely on his beastly instincts. It was the attack from the official wizard, Peter. With his hands around Mr. Beetle, Kai had crashed over the rocks. The legendary wizard must have high mana, Kai knew, but defense, it was another thing. The impact was tremendous, shaking both their figures. It was then, in a single motion, Kai had thrust the ordinary book in between Mr. Beetle's hand and his chest. By the time he stood back up, facing the official wizard, he had already swapped the real book, sending it to his inventory. Smooth, swift, snaky. All the time, Kai had been on his toes, thinking if Mr. Beetle would recognize the fake book. But the events that had followed turned out to be in Kai's favor. Mr. Beetle's wrath, his raging spell, and him getting scared witless all screamed in the joy that Kai had won half the battle. The only thing that had remained was to make sure no contestant would ever get to look at the fake book ever again. By then, Kai had found out that one can see an item's stats by touching or being extremely close to it. What to do then? Kai had asked himself. This question had the simplest answer. Mr. Beetle was covered in mud, his face filthy. No one could have recognized him as a legendary wizard, but the book was still visible, pressed against the wizard's chest. So Kai acted. He acted fast and prudently. Hide the book, hide Mr. Beetle, under a coverlet. It was just an idea, but Kai had planted it in Arlen's mind with absolute success. The next roadblock was to hand over Mr. Beetle to the upper floor's contestants. Kai had known what future awaited him if anyone would get to see the book up close. It was a risk Kai Stormborn had been willing to take. The Tales of Beetle the Bard. Kai spoke out loud as if thinking about it wasn't enough to give reality to it. But even if he didn't believe himself, how could the stats hovering over the item be untrue? Item, The Tales of Beetle the Bard, original. Grade, common, growth 0/3. Specification, an anthology of magical tales handwritten by Beetle the Bard. Requirement, 1, worth 55. 2, a glitch. 3, extreme emotion. And 4, presence of characters. Attributes. 1, store magical tales. 2, current status, 5. Skill, the Song of History. Skill effect. 1, in the presence of characters, automatically write a tale about them. 2, proximity required, 10 feet. 3, the contestant must say the true name if multiple characters are present. 4, the depth of the written tale depends on the current grade. And 5, the tale can be expanded by repeating the procedure with the upgraded item. Skill, Thousand Tales Parasite. Skill effect. 1, devour tales to upgrade itself. 2, automatically writes a hidden tale of the contestant. 3, when the hidden tale is completed, devour the contestant's memories. And 4, when opened, the item gains an intention, rejecting an unworthy tale. Skill, Primordial Theater. Skill effect. 1, imbue life to the magical tales. 2, the characters within the tale come alive and can be used by contestant. 3, activity radius, 100 feet. 4, the strength of enlivened characters depends on the tale's completion status. And 5, each tale and its characters have their own requirements and limitations. Warning. 1, only one tale can be imbued with life at a time. 2, the enlivened character cannot exist outside the activity radius. Quality, 100%. Kai was happy. It felt like it had been months or even years since he had been happy. The last time he was so happy, he had blown himself up, killing the one man he hated the most. From just its requirements, Kai could tell what it was. Something that shouldn't exist. The worth, the glitch, these two alone made it one of the most demanding items in the Primordial Tower. Then there was the fact that it was a growth type item. Kai was holding it, risking everything, bringing up a sign of courage only demons like him could possess. He didn't understand its skills completely, nor did he understand the meaning of contestant's hidden tale entirely, but he knew he would figure it out. I will manage, Kai told himself, like I always have. Suddenly, a blue hue enveloped him, soothing his entire body. The item returned to the inventory as Kai felt an unknown force squeezing and stretching him. But it wasn't painful. Kai stood up, the boyish charm vanishing off his face, like a forgotten dream. His fingers balled into fists, his gaze became resolute, and the hotness in his chest burned furiously with anticipation. The blue blinded Kai's sight then. When he disappeared, a distant rumble reached where Kai had been. The dark thunderstorm, which once was adamant to destroy the place called Dufftown, was coming right towards it. The thunderous sounds marching in its van felt like hundreds of raging roars. The whiteness greeted Kai. Kai had an inkling he would return to this place, but not in the state he was. His torn clothes had vanished, and he was as naked as his name day. The lack of pain, injuries, and bruises all had disappeared like a phantom memory. Everything about him was fresh, and he could even smell himself. A grassy, rainy scent, Kai told himself, taking many sniffs. Whatever happened to that coin? It was the same white room in which he had found himself resurrected. Just quieter, and somehow emptier than last time. Kai took a deep breath, closing his eyes. The notification appeared the moment he opened his eyes. Congratulations, contestant Kai Stormborn. You have completed your initiation mission. How are you feeling? How am I feeling? What the? A chill went down Kai's spine, seeing the question. No, it can't be. Isn't chaos just a system? A medium to gain power? It can interact. This? Why did Arlen, and others, say nothing about it? I am all right, Kai said, reluctantly. Good. You are a valuable contestant, Kai Stormborn. Let's check if you are worthy as well, shall we? Analyzing contestants' actions in the random world. Kai's heart had jumped to his throat, and there it sat, waiting for the result. From the main mission summary, Kai knew the value of the Tales of Beetle the Bard. Chaos wanted imbalance, and the worldwide presence of the book was the key to it. Analyzation complete. Judgment, worthy. Reward, worth +10. Are you thinking about the book, Kai Stormborn? Kai had just felt relief when he stiffened again. Yes, he said, not finding it reasonable to lie about the obvious. Not all contestants have the authority to interact with chaos. It all depends on one's worth. Chaos prefers imbalance. When you stole the book, you became the cause of an even greater imbalance. Chaos commends your unquenchable thirst for power and the avarice that fuels your decisions even more. Though the contestant must know. It worked this time. Will it work the next time as well? Kai wetted his thin lips, his tongue rolling up and down. There was a coldness in that warning, a chill. Display my stats, Kai said, ignoring the coldness within him for now. Status of contestant, Kai Stormborn. Codename, Red. System, Chaos. Equipped title, Nah. Equipable titles, Nah. Unequipable titles. 1, Traitor, 2/10. 2, Poacher, 1/10. Mission credits, 875. HP, 100. MP, 70. SP, 60. Active attributes, first set quota, 2/20. Unassigned points, 2. Strength, 12. Agility, 14. Stamina, 10. Perception, 12. Correspondence, 7. Breath, 6. Passive attributes. Charisma, 20. Luck, 2. Worth, 110. Abilities. 1. Elementary Slither Footsteps, proficiency, 45%. 2. Elementary Twin Saber Style, proficiency, 35%. 3. Elementary Snake Instinct, proficiency, 13%. And 4. Elementary Snake Language, proficiency, 5%. Skills, Nah. Glitch, Blood Devour. 1. Blue-tailed Boa Constrictor, non-magical. Items. 1. Castle Forge Longsword. 2. Pokeball, Generation 1. And 3. The Tales of Beetle the Bard, original. Pain factor, Nah. Inventory, 1 cubic meter 1000 kilogram. Kai noted a few discrepancies immediately. The murderer title in Not Here, he thought. Its specification mentioned I must complete it in a single random world. So it got locked again? Another thing that stood out was that even though he had unlocked the titles, without completing their status, he couldn't equip them. Hippogriff's legs aren't mentioned either, Kai reflected, seeing his items list. I also have 2 unassigned points. Kai's fighting style varied too much depending upon the circumstances and opponents. He had always found it prudent to keep some hidden cards, surprising the enemies during the heat of the battle. Let's keep them for now, Kai concluded. But the most striking things were the abilities. I had only 2, Kai noticed. Now the Blood Essence's abilities are also there. Doesn't it mean? From what he had learned, abilities were one of the most difficult stats to obtain in the Primordial Tower. Even having one ability could change the course of a contestant's life. But, with his glitch, Kai could practically farm the abilities. Of course, he also noticed the lack of the presence of skills, despite having 2 in this Blood Essence. If I ever discard the blue-tailed Boa Constrictor, Kai analyzed, then the skills will disappear with it as well. Fair enough. If there isn't anything else, are you ready to leave the White Room? Kai thought about it, but he still had much to learn before knowing which questions to even ask. So he said, send me away. Sending contestant, Kai Stormborn, to the first floor of the Primordial Tower. Good luck. A bright blue flash, and Kai disappeared, beginning his journey in the Primordial Tower. Volume 1, The Tales of Beetle the Bard, ends.